A casual punch would be able to shatter Viral's spirit. If he got close, would his Lord of the World set be able to withstand Viral's attack with his own defense? Difficult. I'll definitely lose. Lin Feng clearly came to a conclusion. If he were to fight against Viral's spirit, he might have the strength to fight against it. However, if he were to fight against this Viral's spirit, he couldn't see any hope. Within the range of his senses, the black-haired ape Viral still didn't give up and was slowly closing in. Lin Feng rapidly retreated and maintained a stable distance. Thousands of thoughts ran through his mind. Now, what should he do? Stay away from this Viral monster? Or use it to do something? It wasn't easy for him to encounter Viral. There was no reason for him to miss this opportunity. One had to know that the probability of this happening was much lower than finding a suitable dimensional treasure. No, it was much lower. Although it seemed like a disaster and not a blessing, Lin Feng still had some ideas. He couldn't deal with this Viral monster. Wouldn't it be better to give it to the Netherkill clan? Let the Netherkill clan have a headache. No matter how he looked at it, this Viral monster was also a stubborn one. Even now, it was still searching for his tracks and wasn't willing to give up. It was slowly closing in on him by following his scent. He could completely feel that it wasn't willing to give up until it hit a wall. Furthermore, this Viral monster was rather violent. The moment it sensed his aura, it rushed out like a ferocious tiger leaving the mountains. It was filled with killing intent and seemed to want to tear him apart. After that, it destroyed the Blue Frost Celestial Dust Lake, showing its violent side. There was no reason for him to monopolize such a monster. He couldn't be too selfish. It would be better to share. He should also bring some gifts for the Netherkill clan. Lead them to the Netherkill dimensional world. When the time comes, they should be very happy. Lin Feng revealed a mischievous smile. Bringing along Viral monster, he slowly sped towards the Netherkill dimensional world. He was sure that when the time came, the entire Netherkill dimensional world would definitely be in chaos. Chapter 3277. It was not easy to bring along a Viral monster on a journey. If he ran faster, it might lose him, or it might not have the patience to continue following him. If he ran slower, it might catch up to him. Lin Feng did not want to fight with it. Although he had the Hongmeng Viral, Lin Feng knew how it felt to be attacked by Viral. If he fought with it, it would be good if he could keep his life. What was supposed to be a journey of 5 eras took him 15 eras to reach the Netherkill dimensional world. Lin Feng was rather cautious and was almost attacked by it several times. Fortunately, he managed to avoid it. During these 15 eras, Lin Feng did not do anything. At most, he absorbed some energy to enrich his Hongmeng dimensional body. However, he still brought the Viral monster to the Netherkill dimensional world safe and sound. Roar! When the black-haired ape saw the Netherkill dimensional world, it attacked crazily. It believed that the life form it had been chasing came from here. In the Netherkill dimensional world, there was a lot of life energy. Lin Feng could not sense it through the Netherkill dimensional world, but the Viral monster could. Not only could it sense it, but it could also directly enter the Netherkill dimensional world. The astonishing Viral attack penetrated the barrier between the dimensional world and the Netherkill dimensional world. A huge crack appeared, and the spatial ripples were enough to tear a world lord apart. However, it was useless against the Viral monster. Roar! The black-haired ape shone brightly and entered the Netherkill dimensional world. To Lin Feng and the other strongest world lords, the barrier between the dimensional worlds was an unsolvable problem. However, to the Viral monster, it was easy. This was true power. I've finally gotten rid of this big trouble. Seeing the black-haired ape enter the Netherkill dimensional world, Lin Feng was satisfied. This was a huge disaster for the Netherkill dimensional world. Although it was not enough to destroy the Netherkill dimensional world, it was enough to send the Netherkill clan into chaos. They would not be able to remember the Hongmeng Sea for a period of time. Right now, he could take advantage of the chaos to enter the underworld dimensional world. However, it was still a little early. Furthermore, Lin Feng still had some plans. Previously, he had returned too quickly. Later on, when he thought about it carefully, this virile monster was chasing after him. Was it because of its violent temper and ferocious nature? Not necessarily. The first time they met, he didn't feel any hostility, but Viral didn't even think about it and wanted to kill him. Perhaps it was really bloodthirsty and cruel, but perhaps there was another possibility. Treasure. Lin Feng quickly left Underworld's dimensional world and returned once again. The location of the monster Viral had long been fixed by Lin Feng with the will of the manifestation. Although the dimensional world was boundless and constantly changing, the will of the manifestation could determine the location. The dimensional passageway constructed by his own will was used for positioning and teleportation. In the dimensional space, the manifested will would not be destroyed by Viral's pressure. If this virile monster wasn't ferocious by nature, but was protecting or waiting for some treasure, it would naturally want to kill me when it saw me appear. However, this was only Lin Feng's guess. He didn't see or sense any treasure. Since there was such a possibility, he would naturally give it a try. Anyway, Lin Feng didn't have a specific direction. Since he was absorbing energy and training, it wouldn't be a waste of time to take a look. Furthermore, now wasn't the best time to enter the underworld dimensional world. Underworld dimensional world, Bitter Spring Prison. After the death of the Bitter Spring Hell King, the Bitter Spring Hell King had entered the king competition mode. Countless Hell Kings of the Netherkill clan fought each other crazily, hoping to comprehend the ultimate mystery, the extreme breaking. The three reserve Bitter Spring Hell Kings each occupied one side of the Bitter Spring Hell King, forming a balance of power. They all wanted to become the new Bitter Spring Prison King. 9 Hells King, the position of Bitter Spring Prison King will definitely be mine. Bitter Spring Prison King was one of the 3 reserve Bitter Spring Prison Kings. He had a patient personality. Although he comprehended Extreme Break and became a world lord, he didn't fight for the position of Bitter Spring Prison King. Instead, he lived in seclusion in the Bitter Spring Prison. The Underworld Prison Clan had an unwritten rule that those who comprehended the mystery of Extreme Break were free. They didn't have to give face to any Underworld Prison Masters. Even the 9 Hells King couldn't challenge them. There could only be one king in each 9 Hells. Normally, Underworld Prison Masters who comprehended the mystery of Extreme Break would definitely challenge the 9 Hells King. However, there were exceptions, and Bitter Spring was one of them. He was waiting for an opportunity, waiting for the day when Bitter Spring Prison King died. Finally, it was time for him. Bitter Spring and Bitter Spring Prison King, who can only barely survive by working together. I want to see how long their balance can be maintained. Bitter Spring Prison King stood on the stone cliff, holding a sharp silver hook with both hands. Taking the enemy's head was as easy as taking something out of his pocket. This was his life weapon. Bitter Spring Prison King and Bitter Spring Prison King were the other 2 Underworld Prison Masters who comprehended the mystery of Extreme Break. Bitter Spring Prison King was the Underworld Prison King who had just comprehended the mystery of Extreme Break in the 2nd dimension. Bitter Spring Prison King was defeated by Bitter Spring Prison King. However, although he was defeated, he managed to keep his life. Bitter Spring Prison King died, and the position of Bitter Spring Prison King was up to the 3 of them. Looking at the current situation, Bitter Spring Prison King had the upper hand. Bitter Spring Prison King was the most powerful, and he had subdued the most Underworld Prison Masters. He was also the most scheming and powerful. Bitter Spring Prison was divided into 3 parts, and Bitter Spring Prison King occupied half of the territory. If there were no accidents, the new Bitter Spring Prison King would be him. However, fate often made fools of people. Bitter Spring Prison King, who was in charge of the Northern Territory, was planning how to kill Bitter Spring and Bitter Spring Prison King when he suddenly felt a huge commotion in front of him. They were fighting? Did they fight hard, or did they fight alone? Or did they fight together? All kinds of possibilities appeared in Han Kang's mind. In an instant, his figure flashed, and a huge amount of netherworld energy surged out from his body. He went straight to the place where the energy was intense. Before he reached it, he could already hear the intensity of the battle. Other than netherworld energy, there seemed to be another kind of energy. Unique and powerful. A power that could crush everything was much stronger than underworld energy. Shwa! As far as he could see, countless generals and marshals of the Netherkill clan were surrounding and beating up a giant monster that was covered in black fur and looked like a wild ape. No, it wasn't a gang fight. They were being ravaged and slaughtered. The soul energy was astonishing, and the nether power burst out to the extreme. The brutality and soul flame were released together. The generals and marshals of the Netherkill clan tried their best to burst out and kill that black-haired wild ape monster, but, purring, bang, bang, punching and kicking, the black-haired wild ape monster did not seem to have any attacking skills. It allowed the generals and marshals of the Netherkill clan to attack. It roared and counterattacked, turning the generals and marshals of the Netherkill clan into mush. No one was his match. This? What kind of monster is this? Han Xinju's eyes widened in shock. Chapter 3278. Han Xingku had never seen such a monster. It was so powerful and terrifying. Even the super underworld beasts in the Netherkill dimension world were not like this. It did not look like a cultivator or a wild beast. It was in between the two. It did not have any underworld power. It looked like it relied on its physical body to attack, but that was not the case. What kind of power is this? Han Xingku had never really come into contact with Viral, let alone know about Viral. He could only feel the terrifying power erupting from this monster, as if it was in existence with the most powerful energy in ancient times. The generals and marshals of the Netherkill clan had rich combat skills, but so what? Every attack had to land on the monster's body. But that monster didn't care about your attacks at all. It allowed you to attack as you wished. When your power hit it, it would directly punch and kick you away without any suspense. No matter how you defended or dodged, you couldn't outrun its attacks. It was a counterattack that made one despair. It did not seem to have any special abilities, but its shocking physical strength was extremely terrifying. In a short time, dozens of generals and marshals of the Netherkill clan were killed. To Han Xingku, who was prepared to fight against the other two Hell Kings, it was undoubtedly a heavy blow. Damn it! Han Xingku was in a dilemma. As the commander, if he retreated now, his prestige would be ruined. This was a disaster for the Hell Kings. At that time, no one would submit to him, let alone fight for the position of Hell King. However, if he went forward to attack, what would the consequences be? This unknown black-furred monster had killed countless Netherkill marshals with one punch and one kick. Even if he used his full strength, would he be a match for this black-furred monster? While Han Xingku was still in a dilemma, the black-furred ape would not wait for him. It smashed the last Netherkill marshal with one punch. As the black-furred ape roared, its fighting spirit reached its peak, and a thick murderous aura erupted. Everything that it saw, it wanted to kill. Oh no! Han Xingku woke up instantly. The extreme breaking mark between his eyebrows shone, and his underworld power surged. He retreated almost immediately. A wise man knew when to retreat. If he did not leave now, he would be in big trouble. However, the black-furred ape was terrifyingly fast. Although Han Ruku was the first to retreat, the black-furred ape caught up to him in an instant. A fist covered in elite scales directly slammed into Han Ruku's lifeblood weapon. Clang! Crack! His life weapon seemed like it was about to shatter. In a split second, he felt an unparalleled pressure bearing down on him. This power seemed familiar, as though it was the legendary dimensional space. Virile? Han Xinju's eyes widened. In the next moment, the black-haired wild ape appeared in front of him. Its golden hooves directly kicked through his defense. The elite scales surged with a huge amount of virile as it punched into his chest that was full of scars. The extreme breaking mark flashed. Amidst the pained cries, he still wanted to resist. However, the berserk virile instantly surged in. Not only did it suppress the underworld energy, it even suppressed the power of the extreme break. The black-furred wild ape roared in a frenzy and directly bit off the head of Han Xin, crushing it. Roar! The black-furred wild ape's thick fists pounded on its chest, as though venting its anger. At this moment it stood on this piece of land. As far as the eye could see, the ground was filled with corpses. There were no other signs of life. It was the most invincible existence in this place. In the dimensional space, Lin Feng was rushing towards the location where he had first encountered virile. The imprint left behind by the will of manifestation was extremely clear. With Lin Feng's current strength, the strength of the will of manifestation was comparable to top-notch experts like Invincible and Unstoppable. Along the way there were no obstructions. No matter how bad his luck was, it wouldn't be so bad that he would encounter a second virile. Lin Feng's bad luck seemed to have been somewhat restrained. Along the way, he had obtained a little more dimensional treasures than usual. He had even obtained a bronze-colored battle armor that flickered with a strange light. It was very strong. It wasn't inferior to his own World Lord equipment. The strongest Hongmeng source item. Lin Feng had a good evaluation of this bronze-colored battle armor. Regardless of whether it was flexibility or hardness, it was top-notch. Furthermore, it didn't contain any energy and was purely a material defense. That was amazing. This meant that the metal it was made from had reached this level. The Hongmeng Sea didn't have such a metal. The dimensional world is so big. There are indeed all kinds of strange things. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. If the grade of the World Lord equipment hadn't increased, he could directly put on this bronze-colored battle armor. However, now that the grade of the World Lord equipment had reached the pinnacle, the bronze-colored battle armor wasn't that useful anymore. One was a set, while the other was just a battle armor. Furthermore, the advantage of the World Lord equipment was that it wouldn't be damaged. The products of the Hongmeng Dual Polarity Tower were definitely extraordinary. This bronze-colored battle armor is suitable for any cultivator. It has also reached the level of the strongest Hongmeng source item. It's just right for second brother. To Shirwanli, who was preparing to become a world lord, such a battle armor was very suitable. Shirwanli's physique wasn't bad. Although he was a mental cultivator, he walked the path of close combat. Lin Feng didn't need any dimensional unique treasures to condense treasures now. He had already condensed everything that needed to be condensed. The treasures in the Hongmeng Sea were limited to the strongest Hongmeng source items. They couldn't be further improved. Furthermore, Lin Feng didn't have so many dimensional unique treasures to make materials. Seems like I'm starting to get lucky. After this bronze-colored battle armor, Lin Feng obtained another space-type treasure in the blink of an eye. It was a strange cube with a three-dimensional structure. Every surface could be sunk in. Every change would cause ripples in space. The energy was very strange. However, to Lin Feng's Hongmeng virile, controlling it wasn't difficult. It just needed a considerable amount of time to master it. Space-type treasure. Lin Feng played with this three-dimensional cube that was flickering with white light. With his current spatial attainments, it was very difficult for him to unleash the full power of this space-type treasure unless he reached the level of Hikaisen. However, even if Hikaisen obtained this space-type treasure, he wouldn't be able to use it because he couldn't activate it with his netherworld power. Lin Feng's advantage was this. No matter what treasure it was, unless its energy level was stronger than Hongmeng virile would be able to imitate and control it. Along the way, he had obtained 2 treasures that were beneficial to his combat strength. This was already a great harvest. Lin Feng wasn't greedy. At this moment, he was getting closer and closer to the area where the will manifestation had locked onto. He still had some expectations in his heart. There was still a possibility that there would be treasures in the original location of Viral. After all, it had stopped there and wasn't moving. Of course, the possibility of there being no treasures was higher. Everything depended on luck. "We're here." As Lin Feng neared the target area, he spread out his senses. Instantly, his eyes lit up. Chapter 3279. An energy reaction. Previously, he had sensed an enormous amount of energy from the black-furred ape, Viral. Even if there were other energy reactions, they would have been covered up by the enormous amount of energy emitted by Viral. Now that it had appeared, although it wasn't very clear, it was definitely present. It was extremely minute and insignificant, with not even a 10,000th of the energy emitted by Viral. No wonder I didn't sense it at all. Under the cover of the enormous energy emitted by Viral, it was naturally impossible for him to sense such an insignificant amount of energy. This time, there was no need for him to be so fearful. After all, it was impossible for 2 Viral monsters to reside in the same place. However, Lin Feng still maintained his vigilance as he slowly approached it. Only when he was completely certain that there was no reaction did he relax. It was a resplendent dot of light in the shape of a cross, appearing just like a star in the distance. It sparkled brightly as it hung high up in the dimensional space. "What's that?" Lin Feng was baffled, as he had never seen it before. However, with the vastness of the dimensional space, it was normal for a newcomer like him to not have seen it before. This was also the first time he had seen Viral. All of the information Lin Feng had regarding the dimensional space was based on hearsay, basically from Fan Zhu. However, the crucial point was that Fan Zhu himself didn't know much about the dimensional space. The path he had walked in the dimensional space wasn't even a 10,000th of Lin Feng's knowledge. Treasure. This was Lin Feng's first reaction. It was different from the dimensional treasures he had encountered before. Although it was just a star, it was only seen from afar. If he were to get closer, this cross-shaped star would become extremely large. Whoosh! Lin Feng approached it. The energy emitted from the cross-shaped star became even more powerful, causing it to gradually expand. Lin Feng felt an invisible barrier blocking him, making it difficult for him to advance any further. Lin Feng was all too familiar with this barrier, as he had encountered it more than once. It was a type of rule of the dimensional space. Dimensional wall? Lin Feng was stunned. The invisible barrier outside the cross-shaped star was undoubtedly the dimensional wall. Having seen the Hongmeng Sea and the Netherkill dimensional world, the barrier formed by the heavens was between the dimensional space and the dimensional world. It protected the dimensional world from being corroded by Viral, allowing the dimensional world to nurture its own energy and life. The larger the dimensional world, the stronger the life force, and the stronger the dimensional wall. For example, the dimensional wall of the Hongmeng Sea was inferior to that of the Netherkill dimensional world. This was also the biggest reason why Lin Feng suspected the Netherkill clan. If the Netherkill dimensional world was really about to die, its dimensional wall would definitely be weak and would not be as strong as it was now. The dimensional wall was very difficult to break through. Regardless of whether it was the Hongmeng Sea or the Netherkill dimensional world, the dimensional wall was the same. Roughly speaking, one would need to exceed the limits of the strongest world lord in order to break through it. Viral was different. It ignored Viral's suppression and could easily break through the dimensional wall. As for Lin Feng, he was somewhat similar to Viral. It was just that his strength and explosive power were not strong enough. He was still unable to break through the dimensional wall of the Netherkill dimensional world like Viral. However, this was something that would happen sooner or later. With Lin Feng's current cultivation speed, Even if he did not do anything, he would be able to break through the dimensional wall and kill his way into the netherkill dimensional world after cultivating the Hongmeng dimensional body to the extreme and transforming into the universe dominator. At that time, who would be able to stop him? This is a small-scale dimensional world? Lin Feng circled around the cross-shaped star. If this was a dimensional world, it was too small. It was on a completely different level from the Hongmeng Sea and the Netherkill dimensional world. It was like the difference between an ocean and a lake. However, the thing that was blocking the outside was clearly the dimensional wall. According to his knowledge, only the dimensional world had dimensional walls. It can't be that this is the nest of Viral, right? Lin Feng suddenly thought of something as he stared at the cross-shaped star. If that was really the case, would there be virile monsters inside? Thinking of this, Lin Feng could not help but feel a chill run down his spine. If virile monsters like the black-haired wild ape were to come out of the cross-shaped star, even if he had a few lives, he would not be able to survive. It shouldn't be possible. Virile monsters were born in the dimensional world and grew by absorbing viral. This seems to be a small-scale dimensional world, and the energy inside shouldn't be too strong. The energy in every dimensional world was basically different. Furthermore, the bigger the dimensional world, the stronger the life form, and the more abundant and powerful the energy. For a small-scale dimensional world like this, no matter how pure the energy was, it shouldn't be too strong. But if it's not a nest, then what is it? A new dimensional world discovered by virile monsters? Why didn't it enter? Is there anything inside that attracted it? Why didn't it leave? Also, it wanted to kill me in such a threatening manner. Does it have anything to do with this small-scale dimensional world? Lin Feng continuously circled around the cross-shaped star, his thoughts running wild. No matter how he looked at it, it was a small-scale dimensional world. The dimensional wall was the best proof. Furthermore, after so long, if there was a virile monster inside, it would have long rushed out. Previously, when he was in the underworld dimensional world, he had only wandered around outside. How could he bear to rush out? In terms of strength, he was far from being able to match up to virile monsters. Now, the question was before him. To enter or not to enter? Why don't I try attacking the dimensional wall first? Lin Feng was still somewhat curious. He had come all the way here. If he were to cower just like that, wouldn't it be a waste of 5 eras? Lin Feng did not have the confidence to break through the dimensional wall of an ordinary dimensional world. However, the dimensional wall before him was not ordinary. Its energy level was not high, and he could definitely try attacking it. Lin Feng lightly muttered in his heart. With a clang, the battle blade Snow Jade entered its strongest state. In the air, the weapon spirit of the mythical beast Ning Qiong appeared. Its body was 10 times larger than before, and it looked extremely majestic. Bang! With a single move, the dimensional wall trembled violently. Ripples appeared, and the entire dimensional space fluctuated continuously. Lin Feng's attack was not obstructed by virile at all. Even so, he was still unable to break through the tough dimensional wall. It should work. Lin Feng grasped his battle blade. Just now, he was just testing his strength. He was very satisfied with the results of his attack. After witnessing Viral's attack on the dimensional wall, Lin Feng had some idea of the defensive strength of the dimensional wall. Hiss, hiss, the power of rebirth filled the battle blade Snow Jade. The 9th rank Hongmeng Law, life and eternity, merged into one. The Hongmeng Viral was condensed to the extreme. Lin Feng displayed the secret art of following his heart, instantly surpassing the origin grade. Bang! His blade technique was filled with vitality, growing and multiplying endlessly. The power of his attack was like the creation of the heavens and earth, eternally indestructible. Rebirth Super Source. Ka. Chi, the battle blade Snow Jade tore a hole in the tough dimensional wall. A cross-shaped light appeared before his eyes, and energy leaked out in all directions. Lin Feng instantly entered the dimensional wall. Chapter 3280. Since he had opened the dimensional wall, he might as well enter and investigate. Lin Feng was a person of great skill and courage. He was rather confident in his own strength. In fact, even if he encountered the black-haired wild ape, he wouldn't necessarily die. Furthermore, there might not be any virile monsters in this small dimensional world. Virile monsters wouldn't like to stay in small dimensional worlds. This was because the energy wasn't right. No matter how strong the energy in a dimensional world was, it couldn't be compared to virile, even if it was a large dimensional world. To a dimensional monster that had grown up by absorbing virile, only a dimensional world was its true home. A small dimensional world. It's indeed a small dimensional world. After entering, Lin Feng could feel that it wasn't even 1,000th of the energy in the Hongmeng Sea. However, it possessed a stable aura and life force. His guess was right. With the dimensional wall, this was indeed a dimensional world. This refreshed his understanding. He had originally thought that all dimensional worlds were like the Hongmeng Sea and underworld dimensional world, possessing stable and powerful energy that could give birth to powerful life forms and cultivators. However, this wasn't the case. This small dimensional world was very weak. Lin Feng didn't even discover any cultivators. However, life force was present. Basically, they were all plant life forms, and the highest level of energy had yet to reach the level of an almighty being. This isn't the initial stage of a dimensional world that was just born. This is how it is. Lin Feng explored the small dimensional world. Although it was small, it was still a complete world when compared to the Hongmeng Sea and underworld dimensional world. It was a stable world that possessed its own life force. It would take at least a few hundred eras to completely explore this small dimensional world. Although the current Lin Feng had explored a relatively large area, this small dimensional world was still a small dimensional world. This dimensional world definitely has secrets. A virile monster was guarding outside. How could this small dimensional world not be strange? It couldn't be that virile had nothing to do, right? Lin Feng carefully sensed the small dimensional world. Could it be that there's something in this dimensional world that's worth virile waiting for? After exploring this world for so long, he had seen many plant life forms. Plant life forms were the easiest to nurture natural treasures. Lin Feng was very clear on this point. At this moment, various thoughts appeared in his mind, causing Lin Feng to faintly look forward to it. However, what kind of heavenly treasure would be able to attract the attention of dimensional monsters? Would it even exist in such a dimensional world? The energy here isn't strong, said Luo Feng. Even Universe Dominator level treasures can't be nurtured here, let alone World Master level treasures. At most, these treasures are at the level of great beings. Would a virile monster whose true combat power exceeded the limit of the strongest world lord be interested in the treasures of heaven and earth here? Lin Feng didn't quite understand. Furthermore, his time was limited, and it was impossible for him to continue searching here indefinitely. Even if virile didn't return, the threat of the dimensional world was like a thorn in his side. He urgently needed to increase his strength. It's a pity that there aren't any practitioners here. Otherwise, Lin Feng sensed that the area was extremely vast, and he didn't miss anything. However, he didn't see any practitioners like humans, demons, or demons. Other than plant life forms, there were only plant life forms here. Lin Feng stopped in the void, his eyes flickering. Plant life forms, weren't they also life forms? Although ordinary plant life forms didn't have much intelligence, plant life forms that had reached the level of great beings couldn't possibly have no intelligence at all. The energy in this dimensional world wasn't strong, and if one didn't have any intelligence and only relied on passively absorbing energy, one wouldn't be able to become a great being. Along the way, although there weren't many plant life forms that were great beings, there were close to 2-digit. Lin Feng's movements were like lightning, and his peerless speed even caused the space of the dimensional world to shatter. The powerful pressure from the dimensional world fell on him, but to Lin Feng, this pressure wasn't even worth mentioning. His strength far exceeded that of this small dimensional world. Swish! Lin Feng stopped in midair, overlooking an amber plant life form that reached the blue sky. It was so tall that one couldn't see its head, and it covered the sky. The surface area of this plant life form was even larger than an entire planet, and it emitted rich life energy that covered an endless amount of energy. It was as though it was the king of this place. But Lin Feng lightly placed his hand on the tree trunk. Li. The amber plant life form trembled. It could feel the strength of this outsider. Although the outsider wasn't even 1/1000th of its size, once it attacked, this outsider would be able to easily kill it. It was incomparably terrifying. Lin Feng's materialized will wandered around the amber plant life form, searching for the core of this plant life form. Lin Feng could basically confirm that this plant life form had its own consciousness. Otherwise, it would have attacked him by instinct. The fact that it didn't attack proved that it had its own intelligence, knew how to seek fortune and avoid disaster, and knew the difference in strength between the strong and the weak. Found it. This plant life form was enormous, and it wasn't easy to find its core. However, since the materialized will could freely travel through the dimensional space, it was naturally easy for it to find the core of this plant life form. The enormous core energy was contained within the powerful life energy of the amber plant life form. Don't resist. Lin Feng's materialized will entered the amber plant life form, invading its core. In an instant, all kinds of information regarding this dimensional world flowed into Lin Feng, one by one. The amber plant life form trembled, feeling that all of its secrets were being peeked at. It couldn't resist, because it was very clear what the consequences of resisting would be. Both its body and soul would be destroyed in an instant. Kite Pillar could be considered one of the tyrants of this dimensional world, and one of the strongest. It had millions of descendants, and its seeds could be found all over the dimensional world. It had an illustrious reputation and controlled a large area. However, in front of this outsider, it was like a small seedling in a storm, unable to withstand a single blow. What could it do? Should it submit, or submit? Kite Pillar's will wasn't strong, and its intelligence wasn't high. However, it knew that a wise man didn't fight when the odds were against him. As long as it was alive, there would still be life, even if it didn't have Kite Pillar. The other party didn't seem to have any evil intentions, and only wanted to humiliate it? Oh, that's not right. It wanted to know the secrets of this dimensional world. After an intense struggle, Kite Pillar finally clenched its teeth and chose to submit. Although it didn't have any teeth in this world, the wind and rain were bleak. The amber plant life form stood tall, but in front of a tiny human, it couldn't move, and its leaves fluttered down, landing on the ground. What a pitiful tree! Oh! At this moment, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He had obtained some interesting information from Kite Pillar's memories. Chapter 3281. This was a dimensional world that wasn't that old. Its history wasn't even 1/10,000th of the Hongmeng Sea, and all the life forms here were plant life forms. Other than Pillar, there were also many almighty beings in this dimensional world, each occupying a part of the world and living in peace. This could be considered the most peaceful and harmonious dimensional world. However, there was a forbidden area in this dimensional world. No plant life form dared to take even half a step into this forbidden area. Originally, there was an almighty being plant life form in this forbidden area, but it had been mercilessly wiped out. A monster with a pitch-black body. Pillar's description wasn't very accurate, but considering that it had heard about it from other plant life forms, it was normal for it to spread false information. Monstrous strength, extremely destructive, violent. From all the descriptions, Lin Feng could basically confirm that the monster mentioned by Pillar was definitely virile. The black-furred ape has appeared many times, but it didn't stay for long each time. Lin Feng faintly understood something. Standing under Pillar's huge trunk, he felt very small. However, Pillar was trembling like a lowly servant, as though it was fanning Lin Feng and acting spoiled. It was also afraid. It was afraid that Lin Feng would be like that pitch-black monster, killing it without saying a word. In Pillar's consciousness, this outsider was no different from the pitch-black monster. In fact, he was even stronger and could directly touch its core. In front of this outsider, its strength couldn't even withstand a single blow, like sand in the ocean. Attack? It was completely like scratching an itch, like throwing a stone into the ocean. Many thanks. Lin Feng patted Pillar's trunk, dispelling its fear and worries. Lin Feng wasn't as violent as Viral, and he didn't want to destroy the life forms in this dimensional world. Obtaining the information he wanted from Pillar's core was already enough. Lin Feng's figure flashed, and Pillar's branches swayed. The leaves were like clapping hands as they sent him off, and he quickly left. Forbidden Area. This dimensional world was publicly recognized as a forbidden area by all almighty plant life forms. Every time Viral stepped into this place, if there were no secrets, Lin Feng wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. Since he was already here, even if it was a dragon's lair or a tiger's den, he still had to make a trip. It was a forbidden area for plant life forms, but that was not necessarily the case for Lin Feng. As long as Viral was not around, there was nothing to be afraid of. Lin Feng rushed to the forbidden area as fast as he could, in case the Viral monster returned. He had obtained a lot of information from the pillar. Just as Lin Feng had guessed, there were many heavenly treasures in this dimensional world. In fact, many of them had already been born when the dimensional world was established. But Lin Feng didn't need it. With his current strength, these worldly possessions were of little use. Viral wasn't interested, and neither was Lin Feng. Treasures of heaven and earth? What Lin Feng possessed now was the second stage Hongmeng dimensional body, which was the strongest Hongmeng origin body in the Hongmeng Sea. After taking over the Taichu's chaotic universe, his life form had already reached the legendary dimensional realm. The dignified Netherkill clan had a longer history than the Hongmeng Sea. Their combat strength could suppress the Hongmeng Sea, and in countless eras, they had only produced three-dimensional realms. The current Lin Feng was already very reliant on external items. Or rather, the treasures of ordinary dimensional worlds were no longer effective for him. Netherkill dimensional world. Chaos ensued. The first to be attacked was the Bitter Spring prison. After enduring all the hardships and humiliation, they were killed with great difficulty. Just as they were about to ascend to the throne and become the new king, they were inexplicably killed by dimensional monsters. The other two reserve Bitter Spring prison kings struggled bitterly and was alone. They didn't have time to be happy either. As soon as they appeared, they were mercilessly killed by Viral. Without a reserve Bitter Spring prison king, the Bitter Spring prison was in chaos. Everyone wanted to become the new king, and the fighting became even more intense. Viral jumped everywhere, killing anyone he saw, turning the Bitter Spring prison into a Netherkill purgatory. In a short time, half of the Netherkill clan in the Bitter Spring prison were killed. After the satisfied dimensional monsters had enough fun in the Bitter Spring prison, they jumped to the Lower Spring prison. This was a region governed by the Lower Spring prison king, Tiger Back and Bear Waist. Compared to the chaos in the Bitter Spring prison, the Lower Spring prison was peaceful and stable. Under the management of the Tiger Back and Bear Waist, the Lower Spring prison was thriving day by day. However, the appearance of Viral instantly broke the peace. What kind of monster is this? Too scary, this monster is too strong. Everyone, let's kill it together. We can't let it run rampant anymore. No, we can't kill it at all. Quickly inform the prison king, or it will be too late. The marshals and prison masters of the Netherkill clan in the Lower Spring prison were almost driven crazy. They had never seen such a monster. It was invulnerable, tireless, and had terrifying speed, strength, and defense. As long as it targeted, no Netherkill clan expert could escape death. There was nothing fancy about this monster's attack, but it was invincible. In the lower spring prison, their prison king, who had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear, had finally arrived. He had rushed over from the core area of the Netherkill clan, looking aggressive and invincible. He was the well-deserved king of the lower spring prison. His strength was quite strong. Strong? What, Tigerback and Bear Waist is dead? At the border of the 9 prisons, Netherkill lava was rolling. When Self-Chong Bushi and Invincible One heard the news, they were stunned and could not believe it. Tigerback and Bear Waist was not strong in their eyes, but it was not weak among the Netherkill clan experts. In the lower spring prison, there was no one stronger than Tigerback and Bear Waist. He had the strength of a world lord, and his breaking limit was the strongest world lord's fighting strength. How could such a top expert from the Netherkill clan die? But the truth was in front of them. I heard that he was killed by a black-furred monster. Self-Chong Bushi looked serious. It is impossible for such a monster to exist in the Netherkill dimension world. Invincible One stuck his hand to the golden black giant cocoon and continued to send out netherworld power. Self-Chong Bushi also sent out netherworld power. Connecting this with the previous tremors in the Netherkill dimension world, it is almost certain that a virile monster entered the Netherkill dimension world. Invincible One's eyes lit up. A monster that was born in the dimension world and grew by absorbing virile? Self-Chong Bushi nodded. Apart from this, I can't think of any other possibilities. Good. Invincible One revealed a rare smile and retracted the netherworld power in his hand. The patterns on the golden black giant cocoon suddenly dimmed. I have never fought with a virile monster before. Lower spring prison. With a stomp, Invincible One disappeared without a moment's hesitation. To him, there was nothing more interesting and joyful than a battle, especially when his opponent this time was the legendary Empress Dowager. Virile monster. This guy is still the same as before. Self-Chong Bushi laughed bitterly. He understood Invincible One the best. With a soft shout, he sent out more netherworld power to make up for Invincible One's loss. Chapter 3282. Within the cross-shaped miniature dimensional world. Although it was very vast and endless to explore, it was not difficult to reach a target point. Following Kite Zhu's memories and searching along the way, Lin Feng found the exact location of the forbidden area in less than half a century. It was a wasteland. In stark contrast to the other regions, which were filled with life, there were no signs of life here. Everything had been destroyed by the virile monsters. It was an endless, desolate desert. Hua, Lin Feng's will spread out. Slowing down his speed, Lin Feng entered this desolate region. By spreading out his will, he could ensure that he could sense danger to the greatest extent. With regards to the possible existence of dimensional monsters, Lin Feng was still rather cautious when dealing with them. Bit by bit, he went deeper. Oh! With a thought, Lin Feng felt the existence of a foreign object. Although it didn't have any energy aura, the perception of his will was very special. He could clearly feel everything about this foreign object, as though he was touching it personally. It was a fragment. There were complicated runes on it, but as the fragment broke, there was no longer any energy aura. The fragment was rather large, about 10 kilometers in length and width. It seemed to have been cut off by a weapon, as though it was part of a chainmail. Not only were the external cuts neat, there were many cracks on the fragment itself. Whoosh! Lin Feng quickly found the fragment. Lying quietly in the middle of this barren land, its existence was somewhat incompatible with this dimensional world. That was because, too powerful. Lightly touching the black fragment, Lin Feng's heart trembled. It was as though he had entered a deep illusion, and his entire being was brought into an intense battle. It was a battle between an expert wearing black chainmail and an expert wearing white, whose appearance couldn't be seen. The expert wearing black chainmail had a bald head and 4 arms. His muscles were bulging, and his strength was vigorous and overflowing. The essence of his fist techniques had completely surpassed the origin grade. A black and red starlight flickered between his eyebrows, similar to the Netherkill clan's extreme break. His soul was also extremely powerful. His strength and fighting style made Lin Feng feel as if he was invincible in an instant. No, he was even stronger than invincible. However, with just one strike, the expert dressed in elegant white robes, whose entire body seemed to be covered by a thin veil, shattered the black-armored expert's fist shadow with a single strike. The saber intent was like light, cutting the black-armored expert's black armor into pieces. In an instant, Lin Feng felt pain and his vision went dark. Whoosh! In an instant, Lin Feng woke up. His right hand was still touching the black fragment, but he was already at a loss. Everything that had just happened was like a dream, but it was also real. So these are the broken pieces of the chainmail. Lin Feng vaguely understood. What he came into contact with should be the remnant memories of the black chainmail's artifact spirit. As the black chainmail was shattered, the artifact spirit also disappeared. Its owner is also dead. He's strong enough to rival 10,000 men, or even stronger than that. In front of that white-clothed swordsman, it was shattered with a single slash. Lin Feng sighed. What kind of strength was this? In the dimensional space, how many such experts were there? What level was he at now? Originally, Lin Feng was still quite confident in his strength. Even the Nether Sha clan could not do anything to him. In the dimensional space, he had a huge advantage. But now Lin Feng discovered that he knew too little about the dimensional space, and his understanding of it was too little. Indeed, there was virile in the dimensional space. However, to a true top-notch expert, such as that white-clothed swordsman, the so-called virile was simply a joke. When one's strength far exceeded virile, there would naturally be no obstruction. Shattered with a single slash. Lin Feng was filled with emotions. Looking at the incomparably huge black fragment in front of him, what kind of treasure was this? A treasure even better than the strongest Hongmeng source item. The entire black chain mail was undoubtedly a dimensional treasure. Even if it was just a fragment without any energy or weapon spirit, it was still a top-notch dimensional treasure. Lin Feng kept the huge black fragment. Although it did not have much use, it could at least be used as a material for refining weapons. With such a huge material, the refining effect would be even better. He continued to search. Lin Feng did not think that there was only one black fragment in this barren land. As expected, Lin Feng soon made a new discovery. Similarly, it did not have any energy aura and was also a dimensional treasure. This time, it was a treasure that shone brightly and resembled a cage. It was a little like a fortress but also a little like This time, the same scene appeared in his mind again. It was still the bald expert in black chainmail and the transparent white-robed swordsman. However, it was from a completely different perspective and a different comprehension. This time, the angle was clearer than before. It seemed that he was closer to the swordsman. Furthermore, he could directly feel that shocking slash. It seemed ordinary, but it was very powerful. Under this slash, there was no longer any life. Even the surrounding dimensional space was avoided. The black-clothed expert's energy resonated with virile. However, under the terrifying blade chi of the white-clothed swordsman, it was completely useless. His strength had already exceeded the limits of virile. Bang! Everything in front of him turned black. There was a violent tremor, and even the dimensional space seemed to be shattered. Lin Feng's heart trembled. Looking at the cage-like treasure in front of him, he already knew its origin. Boxing gloves. The boxing gloves on the black-clothed expert's hands. Although the boxing gloves did not shatter like the chain mail, they did not have any aura. They had died together with their owner. This dimensional treasure exceeded Lin Feng's knowledge. Clearly, it was different from the Hongmeng source items. It was a different type of treasure. The weapon's spirit lives and dies together with its owner. Lin Feng pondered. Such a treasure was naturally useless to him. However, like the black fragment, it was also a relatively expensive material. Furthermore, as a weapon, the grade of the material would be higher. This boxing gloves were complete. No matter how he looked at it, it was better than the black fragment from before. Keeping the boxing gloves, Lin Feng continued his search in this desolate region. Two-dimensional treasures. His harvest was not small. However, from Lin Feng's point of view, his harvest this time was definitely not limited to these two. This desolate region was rather large, and he had not even explored a quarter of it. From Kite Zhu's memories, he knew that Viral had entered and exited this small-dimensional world more than 10 times. Or, it should be said that it had entered and exited at least 10 times. What did this mean? From the information he had received, as well as the forbidden area he had seen so far, Lin Feng had a rough idea of what kind of place this desolate region was, as well as what kind of existence this small-dimensional world was to dimensional monsters. Treasure Trove. The place where Viral stored its treasures. Chapter 3283. Underworld Dimension World, Lower Spring Prison. Where did that monster go? A tyrannical aura enveloped this world. The extreme breaking mark on Invincible's forehead flashed. His appearance instantly calmed down the chaotic Lower Spring Prison, as if a king had descended. I don't know. It's been a long time. Yes, it might have gone somewhere else. A group of underworld marshals and prison overlords answered. Looking at Invincible Army, they felt that his aura was even stronger than that of their Hell King of Lower Spring, who had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. As a member of the Underworld clan, the Underworld clan experts naturally recognized Invincible as a transcendent existence. It disappeared? Invincible frowned. He had already searched many places in the Lower Spring Prison, but there was no movement from Viral. It was as if it had suddenly disappeared. It was impossible for Viral to be killed, and he did not receive any news of it being killed. It's been a while since there was any news about Viral. It went into hiding. It's better to go to other places in the Nine Hells. Invincible was a little disappointed. As a warrior, he really wanted to compete with the dimensional freak. Now that he had taken a step back, he had pounced on empty air. That kind of empty feeling really made him feel very uncomfortable. Viral left. After sweeping through the Bitter Spring Prison and Lower Spring Prison, Viral left satisfied. It was not that it did not want to continue sweeping, but it had already vented some of its anger. Most importantly, the Viral stored in its body had been used up. Although it did not consume much energy each time, and no life was worth its full effort, it still used up a lot of energy to stomp these ants to death. In the Underworld Dimension world, there was no Viral to replenish its energy. Roar. After letting out a long roar in the dimensional world, the black-haired wild ape was in a good mood and happily returned to its nest. Different from a cultivator like Lin Feng, Viral could easily recognize its way in the dimensional world, even if there were no coordinates and the dimensional world was constantly changing. Viral was born in the dimensional space and had grown up in this place. It would be a joke if it did not even know the way around. Although the black-haired wild ape couldn't find Lin Feng, it thought that it had killed Lin Feng. It wasn't that smart. Viral's intelligence was much lower than a normal cultivator's. It couldn't distinguish the cultivator's aura and appearance. In its eyes, these were all ants, and ants naturally looked the same. After killing the ant that had found its nest, the black-haired wild ape was relieved. It no longer had to worry about its treasures being stolen. 10 Cross Miniature Dimensional World, Forbidden Land. In this barren land, Lin Feng felt as if he had entered an uninhabited land. The Viral monster did not place any restrictions, and it would not place any restrictions. It only left behind some dispensable aura, which belonged to the instincts of a beast, to declare its territory. Viral's aura was naturally a threat to plant life forms like Zhu. After all, it had killed an almighty plant life form before. The powerful and ruthless image of the virile monster was deeply ingrained in the memories of every plant life form. No one dared to step into this barren forbidden land. Who would have thought that the treasures collected by the virile monster would be placed in this forbidden land? Different virile monsters had different hobbies, and many of them liked to collect treasures. After all, they were wandering around the dimensional world, and would always encounter all kinds of things. It would be a waste not to take them. Every single virile monster would have many treasure vaults. As the dimensional world was too big, and virile monsters did not have things like storage rings, they did not know how to store treasures in the dimensional world. However, there were times when their treasure vaults were too far away, and they might as well open up a new one. To virile monsters, finding a dimensional world was a piece of cake. Generally, the treasure vaults of virile monsters would contain tens or even tens of dimensional treasures of different shapes and sizes. As for the quality of the treasures, it was up to the individual to decide. With Lin Feng's current strength, it was rare for him to encounter a virile monster, and even rarer for him to encounter a virile monster's treasure vault. Generally, virile monsters would hide and protect their treasure vaults very well. It was extremely difficult to find such a small dimensional world in the vast dimensional world. The 20th treasure. At this moment, Lin Feng had already explored half of this barren land, and had obtained a total of 20 dimensional treasures. At this rate, his harvest this time would surpass all of his previous harvests. Furthermore, the quality of every dimensional treasure here was relatively high. Virile monsters had pretty good eyesight, and rarely would they find treasures of the same level as scrap metal. The worst treasures they collected were at the level of the strongest Hongmeng source items. For example, the black fragment and gloves he had obtained earlier were of a higher level than the strongest Hongmeng source items. Among the 20-dimensional treasures, there were 5 black fragments, a pair of gloves, a pair of war boots, and a damaged helmet. These were all the equipment on the black chainmail expert. As an expert whose strength was even stronger than invincible, the equipment on his body was naturally not ordinary. It was a pity that these equipment couldn't be used. Otherwise, Lin Feng would have struck it rich this time. I'm too greedy. With a smile on his face, Lin Feng picked up another black fragment. This one was slightly larger than the previous one. Among the 21-dimensional treasures, almost every single one of them was of the highest quality. Even if these treasures didn't have any weapon spirits or energy, they were still worth an incomparable amount. Furthermore, the equipment on the black chainmail expert's body contained remnants of battle scenes. These were also very precious. Not only did it broaden Lin Feng's horizons, allowing him to see the strength of a true expert in the dimensional space, but it also benefited Lin Feng greatly from the blade technique of the white-clothed transparent swordsman. Even if he couldn't understand it, through the various scenes, he felt as if his body and mind had been cleansed. Lin Feng couldn't understand it because the difference in strength was too great. Being able to see it was enough. This was because his life force was in the dimensional realm, and his level was very high. Although this unparalleled blade technique was far from his current level, it would be of great use to Lin Feng's future path as a blade master. It was as if he had seen a lighthouse in the path of the blade. After the black chainmail expert was insta-killed by the white-clothed transparent swordsman, all of his equipment should have been left behind in the dimensional space. After that, they were picked up by virile monsters and placed here. The white-clothed transparent swordsman didn't take these treasures. Perhaps these treasures that had lost their equipment spirits were useless to him. Or perhaps he was too rich and didn't care about these low-grade treasures. Other than the equipment, there are many different kinds of dimensional treasures, all of which were collected by virile monsters. Lin Feng had already begun exploring the other half of the desert. After continuously obtaining the highest quality dimensional treasures, he was in a good mood. The treasures that virile monsters had spent so much effort to collect now belonged to him. Chapter 3284. The First One. When Lin Feng obtained his 32nd dimensional treasure, he had finally obtained a treasure that he could truly use, one that he could display its effects with. It was a black and white cuboid treasure. However, it wasn't a true cube. Instead, it was made up of 2 pyramid-shaped cuboids and 10,000 rhombus-shaped black and white fragments. Regardless of whether it was the black cuboid or the white cuboid, they both possessed powerful and vigorous energy. Furthermore, the 2 types of energy were different. As for the 10,000 rhombus-shaped black and white fragments, they were the 3rd type of energy. Lin Feng had never heard of a treasure that possessed 3 completely different types of energy. The structure of this dimensional treasure was extremely exquisite. Furthermore, it didn't need to be refined. It was different from the treasures in the Hongmeng Sea. When one's own energy was able to activate the core energy of the black and white cuboid, one would be able to clearly sense its existence. Real and fake 10,000 hard all. There was no doubt that this was the strongest Hongmeng treasure. However, Lin Feng didn't know how much power it could display. Through the black and white cuboid, he could sense its existence, control it, and cultivate it. However, such a treasure required an enormous amount of effort to control. Furthermore, it wasn't easy to cultivate it to the level of perfect control. There were many ways to control it. The combination of the black and white cuboid, its attacks, and even its transformations. The combination of the 10,000 rhombus-shaped black and white fragments had to be controlled simultaneously. Only by controlling these 3 types of energy would one be able to perfectly control this dimensional treasure. The original owner of this dimensional treasure was also formidable. Generally, cultivators only possessed 1 type of energy. 2 types were extremely rare, and 3 types were even more unimaginable. In fact, Lin Feng only possessed 1 type of energy, which was Hongmeng Virile. However, Hongmeng Virile could transform. It could transform into the energy of the black cuboid, the white cuboid, and even the 10,000 rhombus-shaped black and white fragments. Therefore, this real and fake 10,000 heart all was rather suitable for Lin Feng. Furthermore, in Lin Feng's opinion, controlling it was much easier than refining the strongest Hongmeng source. Extreme misfortune brings bliss. After obtaining over 60 dimensional treasures, Lin Feng finally obtained a treasure that he could use. It wasn't that his luck was bad, as some of the 60-dimensional treasures he had obtained were usable. For example, the silver spear, while the war blade snow jewel was even better. It was just that Lin Feng didn't know how to use a spear. Although some of the dimensional treasures could be used, their effects weren't that great, or their amplification of Lin Feng's strength was mediocre. The main reason was that Lin Feng's personal strength was too strong. Treasures at the level of Hongmeng's origin items were basically useless. Only treasures at the level of the strongest Hongmeng's origin items could increase his strength. He wasn't like Fan Zhu, whose treasures at the level of the strongest Hongmeng's origin items could increase his strength by a level. We're almost done exploring. Lin Feng had explored about 80% of this barren land. He had collected all 4 of the fortress-like gauntlets from before, but there wasn't much use in collecting all of them. He was still missing 1 combat boot, and many of the black chainmail were missing. After being shattered by the blade, many of the chainmail had been shattered into pieces. The monster Virile might have only taken some of the larger pieces, and not the smaller ones. Lin Feng didn't plan to refine these pieces of equipment as materials for the time being. This was because the final memories, left by the weapon spirit or the original owner, were very useful. The remaining battle scenes would be of great help to Lin Feng's own blade technique attainment and realm improvement. The realm of the 9 Hells King of the Netherkill clan was high enough, right? They were all above the origin level. The top 9 Hells Kings like Eternal Vitality and Invincible 10,000 were far above the origin level. As a combat clan, the Netherkill clan had extraordinary abilities in this aspect. However, the realm of these top experts was like the difference between a firefly and the sun and the moon when compared to the transparent expert in white. Even eternal vitality and invincible 10,000 couldn't block the blade of this transparent expert in white. There was always someone better than you. The combination of these broken pieces of equipment was equivalent to a top but incomplete set of secret technique. It didn't matter if it was incomplete. As long as the realm recorded in it was high enough, even if he only understood a little, he would benefit greatly. Now, Lin Feng already knew that the dimensional space was not only bigger and more vast than he had imagined, but also, the dimensional space had transcendental existences that were far beyond his level. The dual polarity tower of Hongmeng inexplicably appeared in his mind. It was unreachable, and its core contained energy that resonated with virile. Lin Feng was sure that it must have come from the vast dimensional space. Unlike the transparent expert in white, Lin Feng could quickly unravel the secret of the dual polarity tower of Hongmeng. He had explored 90% of the area. Lin Feng had obtained a total of 36 dimensional treasures, causing his bowl to overflow. He had also found the other war boot that he hadn't been able to find for a long time. Basically, he had already found most of the equipment on the black chain-armored expert's body. Lin Feng's mind was filled with various senses and angles. He was unable to copy this blade, nor was he able to truly enter into the concept of the blade technique. However, Lin Feng was able to gain a deeper level of comprehension through the will of manifestation. The will of manifestation was formless yet tangible. It was tangible yet powerful. Lin Feng's usage of the will of manifestation was comparable to top experts like eternal vitality. It was naturally the best way to use it to comprehend the realm of the blade technique. Lin Feng had a feeling that as long as he could comprehend even the slightest bit of this blade technique, he would be invincible in the underworld dimensional world. After collecting all the dimensional treasures here, I can try to strengthen Snow Jade. Currently, Snow Jade was already the strongest Hongmeng origin item. However, it had yet to reach the pinnacle of the strongest Hongmeng origin item. Indeed, there was an upper limit to Snow Jade's strength. However, as it possessed an artifact spirit, its upper limit was very high. With the Chi** weapon condensation art and an abundance of materials, although Snow Jade was unable to break through the bottleneck of the Hongmeng Sea and increase its grade, it was enough to strengthen it to the pinnacle of the strongest Hongmeng origin item. Currently, Snow Jade was still slightly inferior to Invincible 10,000 and Eternal Vitality, which were the life weapons of experts like Eternal Vitality. If he could strengthen it to the pinnacle of the strongest Hongmeng origin item, although he might not be able to surpass them, he would be able to match them. To close combat experts, a powerful and compatible weapon was extremely important. Speaking of which, if Viral were to return and see the treasures he had collected over countless eras disappear, he would probably go crazy from anger. As Lin Feng pondered, he collected the 37th dimensional treasure. The unexplored area was getting narrower and narrower. There were at most a few treasures left. As the will of manifestation spread out, Lin Feng did not have much hope. The 37-dimensional treasures he had obtained previously were already enough to satisfy Lin Feng. As for the remaining dimensional treasures, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. The will of manifestation sensed that at the edge of this desolate area there was an energy that was not inferior to the real and fake myriad heart all. There was actually another top-grade treasure. Chapter 3285. Lin Feng hadn't expected this either. At the last moment of his exploration, luck could still appear once. What did it mean to have energy? At the very least, this wasn't a material-type dimensional treasure. As for whether or not the energy within it was useful, and whether or not it was compatible with one's body, that was another matter altogether. Lin Feng was filled with joy at the fact that dimensional treasures possessed energy, especially since the energy contained within them was rather extraordinary. Even as a material, having energy was better than not having energy. This is? Lin Feng saw a purplish-brown ring that looked like a ring. It had a wave-like pattern, and a pure and powerful energy was contained within it. This was a treasure that Lin Feng had seen before. The black-armored expert wore this purplish-brown ring on his right hand. Unlike the other equipment on his body, this purplish-brown ring didn't seem to coexist with him. It didn't disappear along with the black-armored expert's death. Clang! Lin Feng directly wore the purplish-brown ring on his finger. A powerful energy instantly enveloped it, and the energy on the mysterious pattern was like a swimming dragon. Instantly, the purplish-brown ring shrunk and tightly wrapped around Lin Feng's finger. It was as if there was a rope connected to Lin Feng's mind, allowing him to clearly sense it. This is a technological treasure that is similar to machinery? Lin Feng had come into contact with many such treasures before. However, ever since Universe 7, machinery and technology had reached their limit. Furthermore, the quality of materials in the universe was lacking. After entering the Hongmeng Sea, machinery and technology had completely declined. Now that he had come into contact with such a treasure again, Lin Feng was deeply moved. Such a treasure was extremely powerful. Because it was an inanimate object, one didn't need to spend too much effort to control it. One only needed to use its own energy to erupt with terrifying strength. Not to mention Lin Feng, even an ordinary almighty expert would be able to display its might. This was the power of machinery and technology treasures. Intent ring. Lin Feng was very clear about its effects. This was an amplification-type mechanical treasure. It contained a special energy that could be activated, instantly strengthening the cultivator's will or soul. Its effects were very simple, and there were only two. It could either strengthen one's will or soul. Is it of much use to me? Lin Feng had never tried it before, but it was better than nothing. In any case, he did not need to comprehend it and could directly use it. Triggering the energy of the will ring was like giving himself a shot of confidence. That was why it didn't perish along with the black-armored expert. It wasn't an orthodox spirit-type artifact, but a mechanical artifact. It strengthens the will and soul. It can be used for both offense and defense. It's actually very comprehensive. Luckily I got it. If I gave it to the Nether Killer clan, it would be terrible. What was the strongest point of the Netherkill clan? It wasn't because of their combat skills or abilities, but because of their innate talent, soul ignition, the 6 extremities. The stronger the soul, the scarier the combustion would be, and the greater the increase in power. The Nether Sha clan after breaking through and before breaking through were completely different. They were in 2 different battle states. If the Nether Sha clan had the will ring and directly strengthened their soul, how terrifying would their battle power be? It was hard to imagine. After carefully studying the intent ring once more, Lin Feng continued to sweep through the remaining desolate areas, obtaining a few materials and dimensional treasures that were not essential. Lin Feng swept through the area a few more times, until he did not miss anything. Finally, he ended his treasure hunting trip. What a bountiful harvest! A true/false 10,000 heart all, that was comparable to the strongest Hongmeng source item, or even stronger. A mechanical artifact, will ring, that could be used directly without any comprehension of its effects. 20 pieces of the black-armored expert's broken equipment. All of them had memories of the battle, and could be used to comprehend the peerless blade of the white-clothed expert. 19 other materials of various dimensional treasures that could be used to condense the battle blade, Snow Jewel. After returning from the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world, Lin Feng directly copied the background of the virile monster. This operation was enough to achieve full mark. Fortunately, Lin Feng could erupt with all his strength in the dimensional world. Otherwise, even if he knew that this was a treasure trove, he wouldn't be able to break through the dimensional wall. Within the small dimensional world, there was still a considerable amount of heavenly treasures. However, Lin Feng wasn't interested in them. Furthermore, the virile monster could return at any time. If he could avoid it, he would try his best to avoid it. No matter what, Lin Feng felt a little guilty. I should stop while I'm ahead. Lin Feng kept all the treasures and left the small dimensional world with satisfaction. Within the dimensional world, the small dimensional world was still shining brightly. However, no one knew that it had been emptied. Goodbye. Perhaps we'll never meet again. Lin Feng smiled and left, heading towards the Nether Killer Clan's dimensional world. Roar! 2 eras later, the black-furred ape returned. Although the dimensional world had changed a lot, the black-furred ape still recognized its home. After having enough fun outside, it naturally had to return home. It loved the black fragments in the treasure trove. Especially when it touched the fragments, images would appear. When the black-furred ape was bored, it would touch the fragments and wipe them before having a good sleep. It felt that the white-clothed, transparent swordsman was very good-looking. Creak easily tearing open the dimensional wall, the black-haired wild ape entered the small dimensional world and returned to its treasure trove. It was tired from fighting outside, and its heart was still concerned about its treasures. Very quickly, the black-haired wild ape arrived at this desolate, forbidden area. It was a wasteland. A true wasteland. There was nothing here. Those black fragments, including the fortresses it had slept in, as well as some shiny objects, had all disappeared. The black-furred ape's eyes widened. They were filled with shock and blood, which then turned into anger and fury. Roar! The thunderous roar shook the entire dimensional world. All the plant life forms trembled, not daring to move. Bang! 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 The black-furred ape seemed to have gone crazy. Its enlarged body tore apart the innocent plant life forms. Its sharp teeth tore at them. Virile erupted like a flood, drowning the entire dimensional world. It had gone crazy. These were all its most beloved treasures. However, they were all gone in an instant. In the black-furred ape's mind, its treasures had naturally been swallowed by these plant life forms. Its first reaction was to look for the treasures and fight with these plant life forms to snatch back the treasures. However, it failed. It did not find a single treasure. There was not even a trace of it. Roar! With nowhere to vent its anger, the black-furred ape pounded its chest. Below it were the wilted plant life forms. They were being tormented to the point that they could not even breathe. It was too terrifying. Go! Go-gee! All of a sudden, Lin Feng's figure appeared in the mind of the black-haired wild ape, as well as the ants it had killed in the dimensional world. Its blood-red eyes grew brighter and brighter, while the thoughts in its head became clearer and clearer. Roar! The earth shook and the sky shook. The black-furred ape rushed out of the small dimensional world and headed straight for Ming Sha's dimensional world. Chapter 3286. Lin Feng sped towards the Netherkill dimensional world. Previously, he did not enter because his strength was not enough. He did not even have the qualifications to challenge them. However, it was different now. After more than 20 eras, Lin Feng's Hongmeng virile alone had improved by a lot. This included the improvement of his cultivation, as well as the upgrade and strengthening of various treasures. The raid in the small dimensional world had made Lin Feng's pockets overflow with countless treasures. Just the Heart of Will ring, which could directly strengthen one's willpower and soul, had benefited Lin Feng greatly. The Heart of Following Heart has finally reached perfection. Lin Feng used the Heart of Will ring to strengthen his willpower and broke through the final bottleneck of the Heart of Following Heart, naturally reaching perfection. When fighting against top-notch Netherkill experts like Unstoppable and Invincible, the Heart of Following Heart was much more useful than the Heart of Defying Heart. Following Heart of Will, he entered an ethereal state, and his willpower was naturally formed. The Heart of Will ring did not strengthen his willpower much, as Lin Feng's willpower was already extremely strong. The supplementary effect of the treasure would naturally be weakened. However, even so, the doubling of his willpower allowed Lin Feng to comprehend the mysteries of the heart of will, allowing him to advance smoothly. Lin Feng's comprehension of the heart of will ring was undoubtedly higher. Lin Feng was happy and content as he cultivated. The refinement of Snow Jewel continued. The grade of the strongest primordial origin item could no longer be increased. It had reached the limit of the primordial sea's treasures. However, the quality, energy, and artifact spirit of Snow Jewel still hadn't reached the limit of the strongest primordial origin item. Every refinement was a baptism and tempering, slowly improving. With enough dimensional treasures, each of which was at the level of the strongest Hongmeng source item, Snow Jade's improvement could not be said to be slow. Before reaching the Netherkill dimensional world, Snow Jade can be tempered to the limit. There was no need for it to advance. It was only a refinement of its quality. Therefore, it did not take long. Furthermore, Lin Feng could also divide his attention to do other things. For example, the ultimate understanding of Hongmeng's law of destruction and the strengthening of the mountain core world incarnation. For example, the true-false 10,000 heart all obtained from Viral's monster treasury was a comprehensive treasure that combined attack, defense, control, and life-saving. For example, his control of the Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake had been improved to large success, and so on. Of course, what Lin Feng wanted to do the most was to comprehend the White Transparent Swordsman's shocking saber move. However, the saber art's attainment and realm were far beyond his current level. Even if he concentrated all his attention, he might not be able to comprehend the surface, let alone divide his attention to comprehend. If I can master even 1% of the power of this saber, I'll be invincible. Lin Feng knew how powerful this bladesmanship was. It was just like the time when he comprehended the concept of invincible fists. He had only learned a little, but he was already able to move unhindered in Hongmeng. It was the same for this world-shaking saber technique. However, learning this saber art was 1,000,000 times more difficult than comprehending the fist art of invincible. Let's do it step by step. Either I comprehend the true essence of Invincible Fist's domineering concept, or I use the Rebirth Supersource as the foundation to derive and strengthen the saber art. However, the Rebirth concept was only comprehended by chance. Moreover, my attainment in the Hongmeng Sea's path of Hongmeng is still not deep enough. Even if I continue to comprehend it, the upper limit will not be high. The upper limit was very important. It was very difficult to reach the upper limit of 100 in strength. 98 or 99 was more or less the limit. However, it was possible to surpass the upper limit of 1,000 with just a little comprehension. It could even reach 200,300. Although it was still very far from the upper limit of 1,000, it was undoubtedly much easier than going from 98 or 99 to 100. From Lin Feng's point of view, the upper limit of the Hongmeng Sea's path of Hongmeng was 100. The upper limit of Invincible Fist's domineering concept was 1,000. As for the saber art realm of the White Transparent Swordsman, the upper limit of his strength was 10,000, or even 100,000 or 1,000,000. Let's enter the Netherkill dimensional world first. Lin Feng needed to fight now. At the same time, he also needed to end the war between the Netherkill clan and the Hongmeng Sea. He needed to do his best to protect the Hongmeng Sea. The current him was much stronger than he was before the 10th era. Before the 10th era, Lin Feng was confident that he could be on par with Invincible Fist, who had achieved breaking limit. Now, Lin Feng was confident that he could fight with Invincible Fist and Invincible Fist. Fighting with such a top expert made Lin Feng's blood boil. Even if he could not comprehend Invincible Fist's domineering concept, Lin Feng had been looking forward to fighting with Invincible Fist for a long time. Furthermore, intuition and experience told Lin Feng that the Netherkill clan was hiding a secret. As for what secret it was, he would know once he entered the Netherkill dimensional world. Netherkill dimensional world, at the intersection of the 9 hells. The golden-black giant chrysalis surged with surging energy. Led by self-improvement and invincible, they were full of murderous aura. 5 new kings of the Nether Killer clan who had reached the breaking realm continuously poured their nether energy into the chrysalis. The 5 new Netherworld prison kings who had comprehended breaking limit were all from the Netherworld prison. When one's cultivation reached breaking limit, he would automatically become a Netherworld prison king and would not be under their jurisdiction. However, since the Netherworld prison king Invincible Fist had spoken, the 5 Netherworld prison kings did not dare to disobey. Unlike the other 9 hells, which were filled with competition, the Netherworld prison and Yamquan prison were the calmest among the 9 hells. This was because the prison kings of these 2 hells were famous. They had the combat power of the strongest world lord. Almost no Netherworld prison king dared to challenge them. The Netherkill clan loved to fight, but they were not stupid. Fighting with experts whose strength was completely above them was purely seeking death. Should I also bring some Netherworld prison kings over? Invincible Fist smiled and looked at Invincible Fist. I'm just returning the favor. Invincible of the 10,000 men had a cold expression on his face. The amount of nether energy he was releasing was much more than that of self-improvement. Previously, when he was looking for virile, self-improvement had also released his nether energy. As one of the strongest members of the Infernal Killer clan, Invincible of the 10,000 men did not want to be indebted to self-improvement. Therefore, when he returned this time, he made a promise to the 5 king candidates that he would bring them along. Hee. Ziqiang Bushi smiled and seemed to be in a good mood. The Emperor's transformation speed is faster than expected. At this rate, it will take at least 50 eras and 80 eras for the Emperor to complete the final transformation and become the legendary god of the underworld, Shura. Unrivaled 10,000's eyes were exquisite, filled with surging battle intent, underworld energy violently overflowing from his body. He had been waiting all this time, waiting for the chance to cross swords with those who had suffered repeated defeats. He was unwilling to fail just like that. Ziqiang Bushi's expression changed slightly. His gaze sharpened as he looked into the distance. Virile monster? Unrivaled Wan Fu's entire body was emitting surging flames, and he was extraordinarily domineering. Nope. Ziqiang Bushi's expression was solemn. Virile monster had directly torn open the dimensional wall and entered, and he had not sensed it. It's the location of the will. There's a cultivator building the dimensional passage. What? The experts led by Invincible of the 10,000 men were all dumbfounded. Chapter 3287. What a joke. They hadn't built any dimensional passageways, yet someone else had built one on top of their heads? Wasn't this like plucking the hair from a tiger's head? The experts from the Netherkill clan were indeed furious. They had always been the ones bullying others. When had they ever been trampled on like this? What did it mean to build a dimensional channel? Attack. Provocation. I'll go take a look. With a flick of his wrist, 2 blood-red daggers appeared. In terms of strength and experience, he was stronger than graceful beauty. Find out the details. If we can't obtain accurate information, we can just destroy the dimensional passageway. The Emperor is about to come out of his seclusion, so it's better to do as little as possible. There's no need to add to the troubles. Understood. The murderous man twisted his scar, licked the dark red dagger with the tip of his tongue, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Invincible of the masses looked at self-improvement and asked, "Can't you sense his aura?" Ziqiang Bushi shook his head. The other party's control over the will of manifestation isn't any weaker than yours or mine. Furthermore, it's just a positioning, it's impossible to accurately determine. Could it be the Hongmengsi? Graceful Beauty asked. Invincible 10,000 men coldly sneered, unless they are tired of living. Ziqiang Bushi shook his head. The possibility is not high. The Hongming Sea can't even take care of itself. Knowing our strength, they wouldn't do something so foolish. They should be experts from other dimensions. What I'm most worried about is, Wanderer. Unrivaled glanced at Everlasting. If he's really a wanderer, he could have just broken through the dimensional wall and entered. There's no need to go through so much trouble. That's true. Zhangbushi smiled. Although he was overly cautious, he still had a shadow in his heart. One of the first two-dimensional realm experts of the Netherkill clan had died at the hands of the Wanderer. It was normal to be worried. Soon. Zhangbushi nodded his head inwardly. Looking at the increasing number of golden engravings on the surface of the golden-black giant chrysalis, he continued to grow brighter and brighter. The Emperor's cultivation is much stronger than the previous two-dimensional realms, and he is also much more talented. As long as I make a breakthrough and become the legendary god of the underworld Shura, I won't be afraid of the Wanderers. Be mindful and alert. An unending stream of energy surged in, causing Lin Feng's will to become even stronger. The instant his will appeared, he began to rapidly construct the dimensional passageway. Lin Feng's willpower was strong enough, and his life rating was excellent. The construction of the dimensional channel went smoothly. Furthermore, he was different from the experts of the Nether Killer clan. Lin Feng could survive in the dimensional space and freely construct dimensional passageways in the dimensional space. Thus, the amount of effort and energy he expended was much smaller. Lin Feng quickly began to reinforce the dimensional passageway with the help of the Heart of Will Ring. This dimensional passageway was very short, but the shorter it was, the sturdier it would be, and it would not be easily affected by the changes in the dimensional space. Furthermore, Lin Feng did not need a dimensional passageway with a high load capacity like Viral, as he was only an almighty being. Although Lin Feng's life level was high and Hongming's Viral was strong, the total weight of Viral wouldn't exceed that of a universe ruler. As long as he could establish a stable Viral channel, he would be able to enter the Netherkill dimensional world. Hurry up! It should be the manifestation of a willpower that constantly strives to become stronger. Lin Feng had come into contact with the willpower barrier of the constantly strives to become stronger when he tried to locate the location of his willpower. He was very clear that he had been discovered. With the personality of the Nether Killer clan, it was impossible that they would allow him to construct a dimensional passageway. They would definitely come and destroy it. However, he did not know who they would send. The King of Nine Hells? Preparing the King of Nine Hells? Or perhaps the two super experts, the constantly strives to become stronger and the invincible army? No matter who they send, it will be too late. Lin Feng constructed the dimensional passageway in an extremely secluded corner. The Viral itself was not very heavy. After the construction was completed in a short period of time, Lin Feng directly entered it. Lin Feng stepped into the dimensional passageway and gently tested it. Lat lat lat, although the dimensional passageway was shaking as if it was about to break, it gradually calmed down as the willpower of the manifestation was transmitted from Lin Feng's feet. It was like a long bridge built by rope. It's done. Lin Feng stood on it for a while and knew that it was more or less stable. Time could not be delayed. He had already been discovered, and an accident could happen at any time. If the Nether Killer clan's marshals or Hell Masters attacked, Lin Feng would be fine, but the dimensional passageway would break. 3 steps turned into 2 steps. Lin Feng walked through the short dimensional passageway and entered the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world. There was no disturbance. Although there were Nether Killer clan experts who wanted to approach the dimensional passageway, they were not strong enough to pass through the control of the manifestation. Lin Feng walked through the dimensional passageway and entered the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world. This was the second time he had entered the dimensional world. The first time Lin Feng entered the cross-shaped dimensional world, the treasure trove of the Viral monsters. This time, He entered the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world, which was vainly trying to occupy the Hongmeng Sea. The feeling was completely different: pressure, responsibility, and a strong desire to fight. What a vigorous energy! The energy of the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world was naturally the Netherworld force. Lin Feng had come into contact with all kinds of energy in the dimensional space and had a good understanding of the strength of energy. In terms of the purity of energy, the Netherworld force and Hongmeng energy were actually on par. In terms of strength, the Netherworld force was more focused and direct. The Hongmeng energy had more variations, and its battle style was more varied. Purely cultivating the Netherworld force would make one's battle strength stronger than cultivating the Hongmeng energy. However, cultivating the Hongmeng energy, if one could fully comprehend it, while the upper limit might not be higher than the Netherworld force, one's overall development would be better than the Netherworld force. Each had its advantages and disadvantages. After absorbing so much energy, Lin Feng had seen energy that was stronger than the Netherworld force and Hongmeng energy. He had also seen many energy of the same level. However, even the same Netherworld force had differences in strength. The Netherworld force in the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world was stronger. One reason was that the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world was bigger. Generally speaking, the bigger the dimensional world, the stronger the energy. Another reason was that the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world was currently at its peak. For example, a cultivator could be in his youth, adult, middle-aged, or old age. The dimensional world was the same. At its peak, the energy in the dimensional world was naturally stronger and more vigorous than at other stages. Previously, when he was outside the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world, Lin Feng felt that something was wrong. After entering the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world, Lin Feng was 100% certain. How did this look like a dying dimensional world? The current Nether Killer clan's dimensional world was at its peak compared to the Hongmeng Sea. It was natural that the experts nurtured there were stronger than the Hongmeng Sea. Chi. Lin Feng casually killed the experts from the Nether Killer clan that he saw. Naturally, he would not show any mercy. These generals and marshals of the Nether Killer clan could not even withstand a single slash from him. Lin Feng wandered around the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world, looking for clues and experts. Although he did not have a goal, his will was constantly spread out. Very quickly, he discovered the first expert. The aura of a world lord. As expected of the Nether Killer clan. Not long after entering, he had already found an expert at the level of a world lord. Lin Feng sighed. Chapter 3288. Blade shatters the galaxy is bored. I'm taking a day off. Currently in progress. Please wait for a moment. Once the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 3289. Lin Feng was currently in Yamquan prison, the 9 hells under his control. It wasn't that Lin Feng had purposely chosen this location. The most important point in building a dimensional channel was that the location had to be extremely stable. Therefore, the location of the Hongmeng Sea was located in the Hongmeng Twin Towers region, as the energy there was the most vigorous. The place with the strongest energy in the Netherkill dimensional world was not the Yamquan prison, but the place where the 9 levels of hell intersected. However, such a core area was too dangerous. Lin Feng was not afraid of constantly striving for self-improvement or being invincible. Instead, it was easy for the dimensional passageway to be destroyed in such a way, causing all his efforts to go to waste. After searching for the location of the 9 hells, Lin Feng chose Yamquan prison, which had the strongest and most stable energy. Although it was far from the intersection of the 9 hells, Lin Feng's dimensional channel was short and powerful enough to support and stabilize it. As for whether it would be dangerous, Lin Feng couldn't care less. At most, he could just build a new one if it was destroyed. Outsider. Yamquan prison's reserve king, Swift Lightning, was shocked when he saw Lin Feng. After being in the Netherkill dimensional world for so long, this was the first time he had seen an outsider. 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, and a mouth. He didn't seem any different from the Netherkill race, except his skin was white, and there wasn't a single scar on his body. He looked very weak. Entering the Netherworld, soul flame, swift lightning instantly ignited his soul. Although this outsider looked very weak, he didn't dare to be careless. Black and gold light flickered, and swift lightning's soul flame seemed to transform into a bolt of lightning. The life weapon in his hand condensed into a white spear and pierced towards Lin Feng. After activating the heart-following secret technique, Lin Feng's will was calm, and he instantly entered an ethereal state. Even in the midst of an intense battle, he could still maintain his clarity. The heart-following secret technique at the Great Perfection stage meant that Lin Feng had complete control over it. The heart-following ring flickered, but Lin Feng didn't activate its energy. After all, it was an energy technology treasure. Without any replenishment, it was better to use it sparingly. Dealing with a mere reserve king didn't require so much effort. Clang! The battle saber snow jewel turned into a beam of white light. The artifact spirit, Ning Qiong, was majestic and imposing. It was even more majestic than the last time it was strengthened. Its golden white fur was like the armor of a king. Its pair of transparent eyes contained the ultimate laws of Hongmeng, the strongest Hongmeng source item. During the time he had spent in the underworld dimension, Lin Feng had used up 10 materials that were equivalent to the strongest Hongmeng source item in order to forcefully refine Snow Jewel to its peak. It was costly, but it was worth it. For the first time, Lin Feng felt that his weapon had surpassed the life weapon of the 9 Hells monarch of the Nether Killer clan. From the might of Snow Jade, Lin Feng felt that it was not inferior to the power of Hongmeng's dual polarity tower's 21st floor. It was comparable to the power of Invincible of the world's invincible fist. Boom! Lin Feng's battle saber fell and broke through the white light spear. Regardless of whether it was the weapon itself or the Hongmeng viral, they were completely suppressed. Even with Lin Feng's realm after being strengthened by the heart-following secret technique, he was not inferior to Lightning Fast. Impossible! Lightning Fast's expression changed greatly. No matter how he looked at it, this fair-skinned outsider didn't look like a powerful practitioner. However, when the opponent attacked, that instantaneous explosive power broke through his soul flame and spear technique, as well as that terrifying energy suppression. What kind of energy was this? Breaking extremity! The moment he retreated, Lightning Fast had already burned his soul to the extreme. His aura after breaking extremity was reflected in the mark between his eyebrows. Lightning Fast's eyes were like lightning, and his speed had entered a whole new realm. However, at this moment, a blue lake instantly appeared and shrouded the area. Every star seemed to be connected to the surrounding stars through an invisible line. A strange energy turned into rays of light, forming a network of ripples. The lake water rippled gently, and it had an explosive power that could overturn everything. Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake. After reaching the large success stage, Lin Feng's Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake was still unable to unleash the full power of the Hongmeng source item. However, it was undoubtedly much stronger than the Hongmeng source item. Damn it, what is this? There were no domain-type treasures in the Netherkill dimension world. Everyone was fighting with their sabers and spears. Lightning Fast had never seen something like this before. For a moment, everyone was in a state of panic. However, the explosive power of breaking extremity was truly powerful, causing the Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake to shake violently, and the starlight scattered in all directions. Oh! Lin Feng's heart trembled. As his will spread out, another aura descended from the distance. This aura was even stronger than the Netherkill race expert in front of him. Lin Feng had come into contact with this aura before, and he had even fought with it before. Surging killing intent? The corner of Lin Feng's mouth rose slightly, and his battle saber, Snow Jewel, radiated with a domineering aura. He couldn't waste any more time. Although Lin Feng wasn't afraid of the two Netherkill race kings joining hands, he didn't have to force himself. With a flash, Lin Feng instantly entered the blue frost fairy dust lake, and his saber intent burst forth. He was going all out. This aura? Surging killing intent was rushing towards the battle zone. He was very familiar with one of the auras. It was the reserve king of Yamquan prison, lightning fast. He couldn't sense the other aura clearly, but as he got closer, surging killing intent's pupils couldn't help but enlarge. Lin Feng? The Hongmeng seized Lin Feng. How could it be him? He was very familiar with Lin Feng's killing intent. Back then, he had fought with him in the first-dimensional passageway. At that time, he couldn't use breaking extremity and was even defeated by Lin Feng. Surging killing intent was a great humiliation to him. He didn't expect to see him here. How did he get in? Did he build the dimensional passageway? However, from what he could sense from the unending self-improvement, wasn't the dimensional passageway recently constructed? Surging killing intent's mind flashed with countless questions, but now wasn't the time to look for answers. When he arrived, the reserve king, lightning fast, was already at a complete disadvantage. Surrounded by the blue lake water with starlight spots, Lin Feng's saber intent was like a rainbow, and he had already used all his killing moves. Breaking extremity. Surging killing intent's breaking extremity imprint between his eyebrows shone with golden light, and he instantly burst forth as he rushed towards Lin Feng. However, he was still a step too late. When the two blood-red daggers in his hands approached the blue lake, Lin Feng had already killed him. All resistance was useless. Even if he was as fast as lightning, experienced hundreds of battles, and had rich combat techniques, when facing Lin Feng, whose strength was 2 levels higher than his, no amount of techniques could help him. Moreover, the surrounding area was under Lin Feng's control. Together with the blue frost fairy dust lake, he could not wait for the murderous aura to arrive. The endless lake water was like raging waves, rolling towards surging killing intent. After killing lightning fast, Lin Feng didn't stop at all. His saber, Snow Jewel, was like a divine weapon descending from the heavens. At this moment, Lin Feng was filled with fighting intent. Invincible. Chapter 3290. Underkill Dimensional World, 9 Hell's Border. Thump. Self-Chong Bushi's heart skipped a beat. His brows furrowed slightly as his absolute destruction imprint glowed faintly. A ray of light shot out from his eyes and landed on the golden-black giant cocoon before disappearing. Did something happen? Invincible could naturally sense the change in Self-Chong Bushi's emotions. Although it was only for an instant, everything was captured in his eyes. Murderous Qi is dead. Self-Chong Bushi's words were short and direct, causing the expressions of the surrounding preparatory kings to change. Murderous Qi, who had just set out to explore the dimensional channel, was dead? That was one of the 9 Hell's kings. Who did it? Invincible's voice was cold. Lin Feng. This time, Self-Chong Bushi knew the answer because Murderous Qi had told him through his thoughts before he died. If I'm not wrong, the dimensional channel was also built by Lin Feng. It was not difficult to deduce that Lin Feng's sudden appearance in Underkill's dimensional world was definitely not by breaking through the dimensional wall like Viral. The only possibility was that he had built a dimensional channel. He just built it and came in? Invincible did not understand. Self-Chong Bushi said. He should have built it in a region near Underkill's dimensional world. I originally thought that his will control was on par with ours, but now it seems like that is not the case. To be able to build a dimensional channel in the dimensional space, his will control has already reached an extraordinary level. Upon hearing this, all of the king-in-waiting were dumbfounded. Many of them weren't even able to construct dimensional passageways, let alone construct one in the dimensional space. Just the impact of dimensional energy alone was enough to make them unable to continue. Constructing a dimensional passageway? What a joke. Self-Chong Bushi's deduction was not wrong. He did not know that Lin Feng could survive in the dimensional space and freely use any attack. Although part of his deduction was wrong, at least the result was correct. Interesting. Invincible sneered. Among the experts in the Hongmeng Sea, the one that left the deepest impression on him was this little fellow called Lin Feng. The main thing is that he is not here. The three strongest kings of 9 hells each had their own strengths, and He Can's attainments in space were unique. With him around, Ming Sha knew every movement in the dimensional world like the back of his hand. Now that he wasn't here, he was taken advantage of by Lin Feng. The most he could do was to disperse his will to protect the underworld dimensional world. As for Invincible, he was only good at close combat and wasn't good at probing and sensing. He also wasn't interested in researching it. It doesn't matter if I'm here or not. The nether energy that Invincible 10,000 men released gradually weakened, and he withdrew his right hand. A faint fighting spirit appeared in his eyes, and the extreme breaker mark between his eyebrows flashed. Kill him and end it all. Previously, Invincible had been interested in sparring with Lin Feng. Now, however, he was filled with killing intent. The fact that Lin Feng had stepped into the underworld dimension was the greatest provocation to all the underworld clan experts. How arrogant was Nether Slaughter Soul! The underworld clan is too poor. Lin Feng killed 2 underworld clan experts in a row, and one of them was a king of 9 hells. However, he didn't get anything. The underworld clan didn't have anything else other than their life weapon. They didn't even care about armor and relied entirely on their physical bodies for defense. However, this kind of focused attack and explosive power was quite terrifying. Although Lin Feng's strength was a whole level higher than Murderous, he was still slightly injured in the last fight. Fortunately, the grade of the Lord of the World set has been upgraded. The current Lord of the World set was completely at the level of the strongest Hongmeng origin item. It wasn't any weaker than Murderous life weapon. It didn't have any special functions, but its defensive ability was quite strong. Otherwise, Lin Feng would have been caught off guard by the ferocious killing intent and the final move of destroying jade and common stone indiscriminately. His injuries might have been severe. His soul flame, killing intent doppelganger, combined with the extreme breaker, produced an extremely terrifying explosion. Last time, I really didn't use my full strength. Lin Feng had only defeated Murderous in his normal state the last time. Reality proved that the extreme breaker state and the normal state were 2 completely different things. Only the murderous aura of the broken extreme state could truly be called Murderous aura. What a pity! The current me is much stronger than before. Lin Feng held the battle sword, Snow Jewel, and the power of the weapon spirit appeared. The battle saber, which had been refined to the extreme, could now display Lin Feng's full strength. After 2 consecutive battles, it seemed to be even more compatible with the new battle saber, Snow Jewel. Lin Feng let out a soft cry as he fell into deep thought. The stronger the soul ignition, the stronger the strength. The underworld clan's strength doesn't lie in their physical body. Although the soul is a talent, it may play a decisive role, especially for the King of 9 Hells. Is the Extreme Breaker really their strongest soul ignition? Murderous. Lin Feng felt that Murderous was a little different from the other trainee kings and kings of 9 Hells. His soul was very special and very powerful. The effect of soul ignition was stronger and more explosive than Blade Light and Sword Shadow and Sweet after suffering. Although he was not as strong as Blade Light and Sword Shadow and Sweet after suffering in his normal state, he could crush them in the Extreme Breaker state. His soul seemed to have changed a little. So in the end, Lin Feng was caught off guard and suffered a small loss. If not for his overwhelming strength, this battle would not have been so easy to win. At least, he would have to pay a price. As expected, the kings of 9 Hells who have survived until now do have some skills. Lin Feng's mind instantly flashed with the figures of He Can't Bear, Undying Self-Improvement, and Invincible. The three strongest kings of 9 hells. What would their souls be like? Lin Feng had seen He Can's extreme breaker state before. It did not seem to be as murderous as murderous. Was He Can hiding it on purpose, or was it just a special case? At that time, He Can was still handling it with ease and was not pushed to the limit like murderous. At that time, I will know after fighting with Invincible. No matter what, the murderous soul explosion made Lin Feng pay attention. He believed that this might not be an exception. If Undying Self-Improvement and Invincible also exploded their soul explosion state, it would be very scary. With Invincible's personality, he should be coming to find me now. Lin Feng recuperated his injured body and wantonly absorbed netherworld energy to recover his energy. He calmly waited for the next battle. Since he had come to the Netherkill dimension, some battles were unavoidable. Against Invincible, there would be a battle eventually. Lin Feng was also looking forward to this battle. Although there were some small accidents in the previous 2 battles, they were in fact just a small test of his strength. They could only be considered as a warm-up. Only battles at the level of Undying Self-Improvement and Invincible could be considered a match for him. Let's see what level my strength is at now. Chapter 3291. While Lin Feng was waiting for Invincible to arrive, a black-furred ape turned into a ray of black light in the vast dimensional space. It roared angrily and sped towards the underworld dimensional world. Its eyes were bloodshot, and it was so angry that it had almost lost its mind. The treasures it had spent countless eras to collect had all been stolen. How could it tolerate this? Many of these treasures were treasures to it, especially the 4 black fortresses. The black-furred ape slept comfortably in them. There were also the black fragments. As long as it touched them, images would appear. It loved them so much that it could not bear to part with them. But now they were all gone. Not a single one was left. Although the black-furred ape could not remember the complete appearance of the thief, it knew that there were many similar thieves in the dimensional world. Snakes and rats were in the same nest. Anyway, they were all there. It wanted to retrieve the treasure and then kill all of those damned thieves. Roar! The black-furred ape, which no longer needed to search for Lin Feng, was extremely fast. It was a life form born in the dimensional space. Although Lin Feng was in the dimensional realm, in terms of speed, Lin Feng and the black-furred ape were too far apart. At this moment, the black-furred ape was getting closer and closer to the underworld dimensional world. Underworld dimensional world, Yamquan prison. Lin Feng patiently waited for Invincible Wan to arrive. Since there was going to be a battle, there was no need to hide. In fact, Lin Feng didn't even take half a step away from the battlefield, afraid that Invincible Wan wouldn't be able to find him. During this period, many underworld generals and marshals appeared. All of them looked fierce, but they were all sent to the Yellow Springs. Peak State. The damaged World Lord equipment had been repaired, and Lin Feng's injured body had already recovered. The Hongmeng dimensional world could absorb all kinds of energy for its own use. It could move freely in any dimensional world. Unlike Viral, when the Viral in its body was exhausted, its strength would be greatly reduced. It's finally here. Lin Feng did not have to wait for long. A powerful aura descended, causing the entire land to quiet down. He was the only existence left in the underworld dimensional world. It was as if the Buddha's light shone on everything. It was calm and domineering. His intent realm was not only integrated into the battle, but also completely integrated into his body. It was as if he was the synonym of tyranny. Invincible. You've surprised me. Invincible walked towards Lin Feng step by step. His body was covered in wounds, and his tyrannical aura was stifling. When he looked at Lin Feng, there was a trace of admiration in his eyes. Instantly, his eyes shone with a resplendent light, transforming into battle intent. Many thanks. Lin Feng smiled. He's also very brave. Invincible's fighting spirit was extremely valiant, condensing into endless killing intent. The two fists collided, and violent underworld energy leaked out in all directions. Do you know where this is? Battlefield. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. Then let's die here. Invincible 10,000 men's light flashed, and his killing intent erupted. His life weapon merged with the overflowing tyrannical concept, and like a black hole, it instantly swallowed everything. His fist had already appeared in front of Lin Feng's face. Boom! Lin Feng's face was shattered, and his body turned into an afterimage. The one who dies here might not necessarily be me. Lin Feng's voice suddenly rang out, and a blue light instantly spread out. With invincible 10,000 men as the center, starlight shone brightly, shooting towards invincible 10,000 men. Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake. Lin Feng mysteriously appeared from the lake, and his battle blade, Snow Jewel, revealed its magnificence. Lin Feng's realm rapidly increased with the complete heart following secret technique, and his first move was the Taichu's origins. With the increase in his blade skills and the amplification from the complete heart following secret technique, not only had the Taichu's origins reached the pinnacle of the source grade, it had even slightly surpassed it. Invincible 10,000 men did not panic even though he was trapped in the Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake. He, who had experienced hundreds of battles, punched towards Lin Feng's blade force. Amidst the calmness there was a tyrannical aura. It was like an ancient beast opening its bloody mouth, devouring Lin Feng's blade force. Black and gold light condensed on his body. It was the third stage of soul ignition entering the underworld. This was the Netherkill dimensional world. The surroundings were filled with overflowing underworld energy. It was more suitable for the Netherkill clan experts to battle than the dimensional channel. Although the increase was very small for an expert like Invincible 10,000 men, in a battle of equal strength, even the smallest increase would be an advantage and accumulation. However, the current Lin Feng was no longer the same as when he was fighting Invincible 10,000 men. The huge Hongmeng viral filled the Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake, forcibly suppressing Invincible 10,000 men's bursting underworld energy. Invincible 10,000 men's current state was even stronger than when he was full of killing intent. However, Lin Feng's raw strength was even stronger. Break the extreme. Lin Feng's voice resounded in the void of the lake. As you wish. Invincible 10,000 men did not try to be brave. In an instant, the extreme breaking imprint between his eyebrows shone brightly. His soul burned crazily, and a tyrannical aura rose to the sky. At this moment the entire world dimmed, and the power of the Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake was completely overshadowed. Boom! With one punch, the water of the Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake evaporated. Black and gold underworld energy surrounded Invincible 10,000 men's body, and its color was very similar to the golden-black giant cocoon. Facing Lin Feng, Invincible 10,000 men did not hold back. In the land of the Netherkill clan, how could other cultivators be allowed to strut around? This was not only his pride, but also the pride of the entire Netherkill clan. As the strongest ruler of the Nine Hells, he had to defend it. Soul Flame Firmament. A heavy voice resounded in the void. Invincible 10,000 men's power destroyed the Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake. At this moment, a white light suddenly appeared, and the moment the Blue Frost Fairy Dust Lake was destroyed, it penetrated Invincible 10,000 men's defense. Ma Wei's spirit. The milky white light that contained the condensed Hongmeng viral pierced through the golden-black underworld energy surrounding Invincible 10,000 men's body. Invincible 10,000 men's soul flame firmament instantly condensed in front of his chest. The tip of the white light pagoda had just pierced Invincible 10,000 men's skin, but it could not go any further. Ha! Invincible 10,000 men's roar shook Ma Wei's spirit violently. Amazing! Lin Feng felt Ma Wei's spirit losing control. Instantly, His will ring lit up and combined with the heart-following secret technique, surging energy flowed in, strengthening Lin Feng's will to another level. Not only was Ma Wei's spirit's control stable, but it was also sharp. Qi. The tip of the white pagoda pierced Invincible 10,000 Men's chest again. Fresh blood flowed out of Invincible 10,000 Men's eyes. The terrifying power produced by the extreme break made the muscles in his body become like the toughest metal in the universe. No matter how exquisite Lin Feng's control of Ma Wei's spirit was, the virile suppressed the underworld energy, and the attack came to an abrupt stop. You should be proud to be able to injure me. Invincible 10,000 Men's iron fists collided, shattering Ma Wei's spirit in his chest. The white light pagoda turned into endless light, shining like stars. At this moment, Invincible 10,000 Men's battle intent and killing intent had reached the peak. The blood and injuries made him even stronger. At this moment, Invincible 10,000 Men felt as if he had returned to the time when he was defeated repeatedly. But today, he would not be defeated again. Chapter 3292. In the Netherkill dimensional world, at the intersection of the 9 hells, boiling lava was undulating, and the golden engravings were dazzling. The golden-black giant chrysalis was brimming with extreme netherworld energy. Upon closer inspection, the area under the golden-black giant chrysalis was completely formed like a boulder, and the engravings were connected into a line. Is that Lin Feng very powerful? Hell Overlord Hu Quan, Graceful Spring, looked at self-improvement. The other 5 king-in-waiting also looked at him curiously. Yes. Self-improvement's answer was simple and direct. Was Lin Feng powerful? Was there a need to answer? If he was not powerful, how could he destroy the Netherkill clan's attack plan? If he was not powerful, how could he kill the 9 Hells Kings consecutively? If he was not powerful, how could he kill his way into the Netherkill dimensional world alone? However, self-improvement also knew that Graceful Spring and the other king-in-waiting only had their own thoughts. In their opinion, the Netherkill clan was the strongest. They were a fighting clan that could destroy everything in their path. How could the arrogant Netherkill clan easily admit that they were from a weak clan in a weak dimensional world? Self-improvement was also unwilling to admit it from the bottom of his heart. That was why they were defeated that day and their plan to conquer the Hongmeng Sea failed. However, self-improvement was able to become the leader of the Netherkill clan because he was serious and calm. He was good at correcting himself. Even if he made a mistake, he would try his best to make up for it. Lord Invincible Wan should be able to win, right? King-in-waiting, Tender Spring, was full of admiration for Invincible Wan. Needless to say, Lord Invincible Wan is the strongest in our Netherkill clan. If Lord Invincible Wan loses, we might as well commit seppuku. These reserve kings all came from the Yellow Spring prison, and they had blind confidence in their king, Invincible. Indeed, Invincible was the undisputed strongest expert of the Netherkill clan for a long time. He was undefeated in every battle, and no one could match him. It could be said that he had dominated an era. Graceful Spring's silver eyes looked at self-improvement. The latter was expressionless, and no one knew what he was thinking. Could he win? Graceful Spring did not ask because she knew that self-improvement was not sure. Lin Feng, is he really strong enough to match Invincible Wan? Graceful Spring's heart trembled. This conclusion had a great impact on the belief that she had been instilled since she was young. In Yamen prison, Lin Feng and Invincible Wanfu were in the midst of a fierce battle. The last time they fought, Lin Feng wasn't a match for Invincible at all. However, it was different this time. Lin Feng and Invincible, who was in broken extremity, were fighting fiercely. Invincible was very strong, and under the state of broken limit, he had reached the limit of the strongest world lord. However, the Lin Feng of today was also very strong. The perfect internal universe, the surging and powerful Hongmeng virile, and the life form of the dimensional realm. After becoming an almighty being, Lin Feng no longer had any shortcomings. Following the strengthening of the Hongmeng dimensional physique and the transformation of his treasures, he was unrivaled in all aspects. What was the point of being invincible? With his rich combat experience and skills, his realm was indeed a whole level higher than Lin Feng's. Even if Lin Feng used the heart-following secret technique, he was still far from being able to match up to him. However, Lin Feng had many treasures and the stronger Hongmeng virile to make up for it. He wasn't weak at all. Furthermore, Lin Feng was used to facing stronger opponents and was used to erupting in adversity. The new strongest Hongmeng origin item, the 100 million wheels 8-front formation, was used interchangeably with the Mountain Core world incarnation. The former had 8 complete worlds, while the latter had its own vigorous and powerful energy. Invincible's close combat was indeed very strong. However, he also had weaknesses and areas that he wasn't good at. If Lin Feng was facing Invincible, the 100 million wheels 8-front formation wouldn't be able to trap him. However, Invincible was used to breaking through formations with brute force. He was used to using the domineering concept that he was most proficient in to destroy everything. When his strength suppressed his opponent, there was no problem. On the contrary, it showed that Invincible was powerful and invincible. However, when his strength weakened and his opponent's strength wasn't below his, blindly trying to suppress his opponent with brute force would backfire. Exhausting my strength? Invincible had rich battle experience and quickly understood Lin Feng's method. Not only was he proficient in the formation domain, but he could also reform the white light pagoda that he smashed and attacked continuously. Invincible had suffered once. His physical defense wasn't enough to completely block the piercing of the white light pagoda, especially when Lin Feng's energy suppressed his underworld energy. Every time he used soul ignition, it consumed a lot of energy. He has too many treasures. Invincible once again broke through the obstruction of the 100 million wheels 8-front formation. Facing Lin Feng's endless attacks, he was somewhat helpless. He wouldn't blame the heavens or blame others. Every cultivator had their own battle methods. The cultivators of the Hongmeng Sea weren't as talented as the Netherkill clan, so it was normal to use treasures to make up for it. However, this Lin Feng had more treasures than any cultivator that Invincible had seen before. They were all stronger, and almost every one of them could cause him harm. Invincible had never seen such an opponent before. If this drags on, it will be very disadvantageous for me. Let's end this as soon as possible. Invincible's aura suddenly soared. In the netherworld state, his physical body seemed to have absorbed all the underworld energy. His muscles and bones bulged, giving off a golden black light. Wisps of underworld energy turned into steam as if they were burned out. Invincible's eyes became ferocious, and his face was slightly distorted with pain. Ha! Gnashing his teeth, Invincible pushed himself to the limit. Mysterious patterns of legends appeared on his golden black body, which was very similar to the golden black giant pupa. However, it was far less complicated than the golden black giant pupa. Inside his body, his soul was burning to the extreme, far exceeding the energy of breaking extremity. Not only was his physical body giving off a golden black light, but so was his soul. Like a turbine, the burning of his soul seemed to have been ignited at this moment. The pain was accompanied by a crazy increase in strength. Soul ignition 6 extremities? No. The Netherkill clan had a power that surpassed breaking extremity, Shura. Rumor had it that the Netherkill clan was the descendant of Shura, and the bloodline in their bodies inherited the power of Shura. Only when they cultivated to the limit and surpassed the limit could they burst out a small part of the power of the top existence in the dimensional space, Shura. The Netherkill clan was one of the 3 strongest world lords. Although he could barely do it, Invincible could already control and burst out Shura's state at any time. Surpassing the 6 extremities. Get out of my way. Amidst the roar, Invincible's crazy aura was released. His entire body was covered in a golden black light, and he turned into a lightning beast. Under Shura's sudden burst of strength, he completely shattered the 100,000,000 wheels 8 front formation with absolute suppression. Even the spirit of Gai Wei, who was attacking him, was blasted down. In front of Invincible, only a small existence was left, Lin Feng. Die. Invincible Shura's state made the power of his punch several times stronger than before. Chapter 3293. Peng. Lin Feng's saber aura was completely broken, and the terrifying golden-black nether power forcefully shattered the Lord of the World set. Lin Feng was instantly pushed back by Invincible's punch, but the intent ring on his hand was already shining. He was already prepared. Lin Feng was already on his guard after the battle with the murderous aura. As expected, the Nether Killer clan had a stronger killer move other than the Soul Ignition 6 Extremes. Their strength was limitless, and the soul structure of the Nether Killer clan made Lin Feng gasp in amazement. If his soul was destroyed like this, he would have been finished long ago. However, a different soul didn't mean that it was weak. Origin source. The pure energy of the intent ring poured in. This time, it wasn't his will that was strengthened, but his soul. The perfect heart following heart secret technique, coupled with Lin Feng's comprehension of the realm beyond the origin level. His origin source had also reached the level beyond the threshold. Boom! The moment he retreated, Lin Feng's soul shock burst out and blasted into Invincible's golden-black burning soul. The sharpest weapon was also the weakest point. Lin Feng knew this better than anyone. The stronger one was, the weaker one was. Moreover, Invincible had been using Extreme Break and Soul Flame since the beginning of the battle. The continuous use of arrays, domains, and Spirit of Galway consumed a lot of Invincible's soul power. The eruption of Shura's state did make Invincible extremely terrifying, but it also intensified the burning of his soul. Crack! Crack! His soul was trembling, and the golden black light was cracking. Get lost! Wan Wudi's eyes were filled with murderous intent. As a top-notch Nether Killer clan warrior, he never knew what retreating was. Especially now that the dignity of the Nether Killer clan was at stake, it was even more impossible for him to retreat. The tyrannical power destroyed everything, and his soul burned to the limit. Invincible used his crazy will to resist Lin Feng's soul shock without dodging. This was a competition of tenacity and willpower. He had never lost before. Invincible had full confidence that he could kill Lin Feng before his soul completely collapsed. In Shura's state, he was invincible. Boom! All of Lin Feng's defenses were once again shattered by Invincible. In the face of Shura's absolute power, Lin Feng's defenses were like paper. Invincible was already powerful enough, but after activating Shura's state, it was even more terrifying. His Lord of the World equipment set was completely shattered. However, Lin Feng's second soul shock landed on Invincible's golden black soul almost at the same time. Crack! It shattered once again. Unrivaled Wan Fu madly channeled his power, and the strongest will of the Netherkill clan condensed in his blood-red eyes. As he roared, even though his muscles were trembling violently, he still stood on the ground without any intention of retreating. War God! He was invincible and never retreated. He gave his all in every battle and fought to the very end. Die! Attacking crazily, the golden-black netherworld power condensed on the life weapon. At this moment, Invincible was filled with the strongest fighting spirit and spirit. This punch distorted time and space, causing the Netherkill dimensional world to completely shatter. It was even more powerful than the previous two punches. The stronger he met, the stronger he became. This was a true expert. Boom! Lin Feng's soul shock was even faster than the previous two times. His intent ring shone brightly, and Hongming's virile channeled his power. At the moment of life and death, Lin Feng's soul shock secret technique broke through the barrier and truly reached the transcendent level. At the same time, Lin Feng gathered all of his remaining strength to unleash the final attack. Intent transcendent. Whoosh. Invincible's punch that destroyed everything stopped at that moment as if it was frozen. The golden-black netherworld power enveloped his extremely powerful body, and the light gradually dimmed. Crack, 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 crack. The golden-black flesh shattered like porcelain, splitting into pieces. Invincible's expression was still firm, but his eyes were lifeless, and his aura dissipated like fireworks. Invincible had fallen. If his punch could be faster than Lin Feng's soul shock, or if his soul could hold on for even a moment longer, Lin Feng might have lost. But there were no ifs. Everything had been decided. Lin Feng stood on the ground of the netherworld dimension, watching Invincible fall with a calm expression. Even though he was heavily injured, Lin Feng did not hesitate. This was a battle with no way out. Both parties were betting everything they had. A battle of life and death. Invincible. Lin Feng firmly remembered this respectable opponent. His tenacious willpower, his valiant heart, his spirit of never giving up, and his deep infatuation for battle. Invincible could retreat, but he did not. Regardless of winning or losing, he wanted to determine the victor. In the first attack, Invincible's punch was faster than Lin Feng's soul shock. In the second attack, Invincible's punch was on par with Lin Feng's soul shock. But in the third attack, Lin Feng's soul shock was faster. It was not that Lin Feng had become faster, but that Invincible had become slower. Soul against soul. Every time Lin Feng used his soul shock, it was a heavy blow to Invincible's soul. Invincible's strength was completely dependent on Shura's state of soul ignition and not his own state of soul break. But Lin Feng's soul shock only consumed his soul. Indeed, with Lin Feng's soul energy, he was unable to withstand two soul shock. But with the energy from the intent ring, Lin Feng had unleashed 3 rounds of soul shock. This was a battle with no losers. Both parties had given it their all. Netherworld dimension, boundary of 9 hells. Coup! Netherworld energy leaked out, and the golden-black giant cocoon trembled. Its hands were trembling, and its eyes were wide open. The Netherworld race commander, who was known as the strongest king of 9 hells in the Netherworld race, had a pale face. Impossible! This is impossible. Only a low murmur could be heard. The trembling hands of Invincible could no longer release Netherworld energy. He stood there in a daze, feeling the disappearance of Invincible's life energy. At this moment, he was unable to accept this news. Graceful and Charming and the other 5 kings of Yellow Springs Prison looked at Invincible in confusion, not knowing what had happened. Graceful and Charming had never seen Invincible in such a state. It was as if the sky had collapsed. What could have happened to make Invincible lose his composure? Could it be, thinking of this, Graceful and Charming's voluptuous body trembled slightly, and her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. No, this is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Dead. Ziqiang Bushi shook his head. He could not believe it even after a long time, but he had already accepted the reality. As the commander of the Underworld Killer Clan, no matter how big the situation was, he had to deal with it calmly and not panic. His cold eyes swept across Graceful and Charming and the other kings of 9 hells. Invincible opened his mouth, and his voice was hoarse and low, but it shocked the hearts of all the kings of 9 hells. Invincible against 10,000 men has fallen. Chapter 3294. Bad news. Invincible Wan's death was not only a loss of the Nether Killer Clan's top combat power, but also a serious blow to their morale. The reserve kings were all dumbstruck. It was hard to imagine that their invincible king would die in the hands of a Hongmeng sea cultivator. Invincible Wan was the strongest Nether Killer Clan member. In the hearts of the reserve kings and 9 hells kings, Invincible Wan was synonymous with the strongest. For a long time, he was unshakable as the strongest Nether Killer Clan member. Although He Can Bear and Self-Improvement were equally famous, He Can Bear himself admitted that he was not Invincible Wan's opponent. As for the Nether Killer clan's leader, Self-Improvement, no one had seen him fight. He was not from the same generation as he can bear and Invincible One. Invincible One can only maintain sure state for a short time, but with his explosive power in close combat, even I have to avoid him. Self-Improvement had always had a high opinion of Invincible One. Invincible One was undoubtedly one of the strongest Nether Killer clan members in this generation. A battle maniac. As the leader of the Nether Killer clan, Self-Improvement hoped to see a genius like Invincible One rise. To be able to become the strongest 9 Hells King in such a short time and comprehend sure state that surpassed breaking limit, Self-Improvement asked himself if he could do it. He spent nearly 10 times more time activating sure state than Invincible One. In this generation, there was only one more genius than Invincible One. Dense nether energy surged out and landed on the golden black giant cocoon. At this time, the golden secret patterns had already connected into a line. The surging nether energy overflowed from the golden black giant cocoon as if he could not hold it in any longer. Self-Improvement pursed his lips tightly as he pondered. In his position, he had to consider everything from the big picture. Invincible One was already dead. There was no point in feeling conflicted or disappointed. Right now, there were 2 things that had landed in the mind of Self-Improvement. First, how strong was Lin Feng? Did he barely win against Invincible One, or did he win against Invincible One? What was the difference in strength between them? Did he win by luck or did he rely on his own strength? Did Invincible of the World activate Shura's strongest mode during the battle? This was very important because although Self-Improvement was stronger than being invincible, it was only stronger in Shura's state and the accumulation of time. Under the same circumstances, unremitting Self-Improvement did not think that he was invincible. The second matter was actually closely related to the first matter. Should he continue to release nether energy and quickly allow Emperor to complete its final transformation, or should he look for Lin Feng and try to kill him? From the perspective of the overall situation, he hoped to complete the final transformation of the Emperor by constantly striving for self-improvement, because everything he had done before was for this. The Nether Sha clan was in dire need of a transcendent leader to lead them back to their former glory. Not only was he the third-dimensional realm expert of the Netherkill race, but he was also the strongest dimensional realm expert. He would definitely become the strongest dimensional realm expert of the Netherkill race after activating all of the Shura bloodlines. Hades Shura. Forget about Lin Feng. Unremitting self-improvement quickly made a decision. As the leader of a clan, he had to be decisive enough. He could not be indecisive and half-hearted. Regardless of whether Lin Feng was strong or not, it was impossible for him to leave this place if he constantly strived for self-improvement. That was because Invincible 10,000 had died, and he was now the only strongest world master here. Even if Graceful Beauty and the other underworld masters added together, they wouldn't be able to match up to 10% of his power output. If even he left, the Emperor's transformation would be put on hold, and everything he had done before would be in vain. Right now, he only lacked the last step. There was no need to deliberately look for Lin Feng. Lin Feng liked to kill in the Nether Sha dimensional world, so he could kill as much as he wanted. Just like the monsters in Viral, one person could not kill an entire clan. Unremitting self-improvement even hoped that Lin Feng would do this to waste time. If Lin Feng found this place, he would fight Lin Feng with all his might. Unremitting self-improvement was the only one in the Nether Sha clan who could compete with Lin Feng. Regardless of whether Lin Feng was lucky to defeat Invincible of the World, it was an indisputable fact that he could match Invincible of the World. Who else in the Nether Sha clan could do this? They were all killed. Unremitting self-improvement sighed when he thought about it. The dignified 9 Hells Kings of the Nether Sha clan were killed by Lin Feng one by one. Now, only Graceful Beauty and him were still alive in the Nether Sha dimensional world. Although there were still many world lords in reserve, their strength was undoubtedly inferior to the 9 Hells Kings. In a short period of time, there would be a gap in the combat power of the Nether Shaw-dimensional world. What a troublesome brat! I hope he won't be a stumbling block to stop the Emperor's final transformation. Unremitting self-improvement released a large amount of Nether energy. He was a little worried. From what he knew, Lin Feng was the nemesis of the Nether Sha clan. He always gave the Nether Sha clan a blow at the crucial moment. Nether Sha-dimensional world, Yamquan prison. After killing Invincible of the world, Lin Feng did not leave. Although he was heavily injured, was there still a need to leave? Even the strongest Nether Sha clan member, Invincible of the Nether Sha clan, had died. There were not many 9 Hells Kings left in the Nether Sha clan. Other than unremitting self-improvement, Lin Feng did not think that there was anything else in the Nether Sha clan that could threaten him. Moreover, with his recovery ability, Lin Feng was confident that he could recover more than 80% of his strength before unremitting self-improvement found him. If he could drag things out a little longer, he would be able to recover completely. At that time, he would be able to fight. Lin Feng did not underestimate unremitting self-improvement. As the leader of the Nether Sha clan, he definitely had some skills. It was just that he did not know if he was stronger or weaker than Invincible of the world. He was very curious. You will know after a fight. Lin Feng absorbed a large amount of Nether energy to recover his energy and injuries. The powerful effect of Hongmeng Viral gave Lin Feng an extremely strong recovery ability, especially the trace of Viral contained within. The highest level of power. After killing Invincible of the world, Lin Feng finally had time to properly explore the secrets of the Nether Sha-dimensional world. Previously, he had suspected that the Nether Sha clan had revealed clues time and time again. Even a fool could see that there was a problem. It was not that the Nether Sha-dimensional world was reaching the end of its lifespan and needed to migrate to another dimensional world. After entering the Nether Sha-dimensional world, Lin Feng was 100% sure. There was a problem with the Nether Sha clan. They seemed to be preparing for something, waiting for something. Every move of theirs seemed to be hiding a shocking secret. Very soon I will completely uncover it and see what is going on. Lin Feng was very clear that if the Nether Sha clan was not eliminated and their hidden conspiracy was not dispelled, the Hongmeng Sea would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. As a member of the Hongmeng Sea, Lin Feng naturally hoped to draw a perfect conclusion to this matter. The current him had enough strength to do so. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 3295. Hongmeng Sea, Taisher Origin Chaotic Universe. It's here. 2 figures flashed past. One of them was as fast as lightning. The space he was in was completely beyond the control of the Hongmeng Sea. It was as if he was the master of this space. The other figure was taller and had a strong nether power. However, his actions were feminine and out of place. Master, you're amazing. Parting with love and hate was not a compliment, but a sincere admiration. During this period of time with He-Kan, he admired He-Kan even more. Whether it was in terms of strength or personality, He-Kan was one of the best in the Netherkill clan. She looked at him with her big, bright eyes, which were filled with tenderness and adoration. It still took some time. He-Kan smiled and avoided love and hate separations, scary eyes. The sword in his hand flashed, and the entire space was cut open like tofu. His nether power devoured the Hongmeng energy. In this space, he was the absolute master. An extraordinarily enormous energy was revealed as if a box had been opened. It was an energy that was completely different from the primordial sea's energy. It seemed to oppose the primordial sea's energy, yet it was slightly inferior. The tunnel to the insect world. Love and hate separation shifted her gaze from He-Kan to the entrance that was surging with powerful energy. It was like a giant insect opening its mouth, full of energy. She had been hiding in the Hongmeng Sea for too long. She had been looking for clues about the tunnel to the insect world, but she had not made any progress. Even though she held a high position in the army, the Taichu's tunnel to the insect world was just a beginning. Its characteristics were not obvious. Love and hate separation could not control a space like he can. If the tunnel to the insect world was hidden too deep, she could not dig it out. Now she finally got what she wanted. The tunnel to the insect world is newly sealed. He Can's eyes were bright. What do you mean? Love and hate separation was confused. He Can said, Taisher's disaster has passed for a long time. The tunnel to the insect world should have been sealed for a long time. If I'm not wrong, there should have been Hongmeng Sea cultivators who entered the insect world before us. Love and hate separation's eyes widened. Who? How could he endure this? He smiled faintly. Who else knows about this tunnel and has the strength to enter? Gu Huang? Love-hate separation reacted instantly. How could he endure this? His flexible sword shook and he nodded. His eyes were bright. Just right, I didn't have to waste any effort at all. Everything will be settled in one go. This time, the heavens are destined to bless my Nether Killer clan. Then, he turned into a flash of light and entered the passage to the insect world. Love and hate Bieli followed him in. Underworld Dimensional World, Yamquan Prison. He didn't come. Lin Feng stayed in Yamquan Prison for a long time, until all the injuries from the battle with Wanfu Wudi were healed, and the Hongmeng Viral was in a saturated state. He still did not see any signs of ceasing to improve. Without hiding his tracks, Lin Feng went on a killing spree in Yamquan Prison. He had killed countless Nether Sha marshals and prison masters. There were even a few reserve kings. If Lin Feng wanted to look for him, he would definitely be able to find him. However, self-improvement did not appear. Lin Feng was probing. He was probing the bottom line of the Nether Killer clan and their attitude. Self-improvement isn't necessarily weaker than Invincible of 10,000 men. As the leader of the Infernal Killer clan, even Invincible of 10,000 men was killed. How can self-improvement just sit and watch? There's something wrong. He allowed the Nether Killer clan experts to be slaughtered by him, but he did nothing. This was simply unimaginable for the proud and arrogant Nether Sha clan. With their pride and dignity, even if they were not a match for their opponent, they would still fight with all their might. Even if they were defeated, it would still be a glorious defeat. However, nothing happened. Not only did Lin Feng not appear, but the other kings of the Nine Hells also did not appear. They were the Nether Killer clan. Since you don't appear, I'll look for you. Lin Feng would naturally not miss such an opportunity. Now that he had fully recovered his strength, he was completely capable of fighting against Chang Butian. What was there to be afraid of? As the leader of the Nether Killer clan, Lin Feng must know and even control the Nether Killer clan's plan. As long as he could find him, the secret of the Nether Killer clan would be revealed. After the battle with Wanfu Wudi, Lin Feng was even more cautious. Although he had comprehended the soul attack secret technique, Will Essence Super Source, that surpassed the source grade, there was no limit to the improvement of his strength. Especially now, Lin Feng still had a lot of room for improvement. Real and fake 10,000 Hardall, a comprehensive treasure that combined attack, defense, control, and life-saving. This was the best treasure that Lin Feng had obtained from the Viral Monster's lair. Not only did it reach the level of the strongest Hongmeng source, it even surpassed it by a little. It was even better than the Will Essence Ring, that shone brilliantly in the previous battle. However, the advantage of the Will Essence Ring was that it could be used without any comprehension. Although the real and fake 10,000 Heart all was easier to use than the strongest Hongmeng source, it still required one to learn how to control it perfectly. This was similar to the spirit of Ma Wei. However, it was more difficult to control than the spirit of Ma Wei. Its complexity, applicability, and power also surpassed the spirit of Ma Wei. With the real and fake 10,000 Hardall, I can attack and defend at will. I am truly invincible. Lin Feng sped through the Nether Killer Dimension world. He had been here for almost an era and had gradually adapted to the environment. 80% of his attention was focused on learning how to control the real and fake 10,000 heart all, and the remaining 20% was more than enough for Lin Feng. In the current Nether Killer Dimension world, there were not many things that could threaten him. In the Nether Killer Dimension world, the strongest energy is in the central region. Lin Feng already knew when he constructed the dimensional channel in the dimensional space. If the Nether Killer clan was hiding any secrets, there was a high chance that it would be in this region. However, it would take a considerable amount of time to reach the central region from the border of the Nether Killer Dimension world. After all, this was a true dimensional world. Its area was even larger than the Hongmeng Sea. No matter how fast Lin Feng was, it would take a long time for him to rush from the Taichu to the Taisher origin chaotic universe. In the dimensional space. Roar! A furious roar shook the entire space. Dimensional energy scattered in all directions, and all the black fur on the ape's body stood up. The black-haired ape's blood-red eyes were filled with a terrifying evil aura, and its killing intent was dense. It had finally arrived after rushing through the Nether Killer Dimension world with anger. Rip! It crazily tore apart the dimensional wall. This dimensional wall, which was a shackle to the strongest world lords, could not even withstand a single blow from the virile monster. The Nether Killer Dimension world was like a city gate that had been blasted open, revealing itself to the black-haired ape. Roar! It was unable to restrain its anger and flew into a rage. The black-haired ape turned into a black arrow and penetrated into the Nether Killer Dimension world. It wanted to start a massacre and retrieve its treasure. Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 3296. The Hongmeng Sea was currently in chaos. Although the construction of the second dimensional passage by the Nether Killer clan had been destroyed by Lin Feng, many generals, marshals, and even Hell Masters had entered the Hongmeng Sea. Although they could not cause much trouble, it was enough to cause headaches for the various primal chaos universes. Fan Zhu, Dao Wuji, Thousand Blood Empress, and the other world masters were very busy. These Nether Killer clan elites were all very warlike, and had caused a lot of trouble for the various primal chaos universes. However, like the Bug clan, they only caused some unrest in the Hongmeng Sea, but they were not truly fatal. What made the 5 great world lords worried and fearful was He and Blade Light and Sword Shadow, the 2 9 Hells Kings of the Netherkill clan. Another thing was that they did not know when the dimensional passageways would be constructed again, and the Netherkill clan would invade. There's no movement at all. That's right. It's as if the Saber Light and Sword Shadows have disappeared. Where did they go? I'm not sure. The Nether Killer clan's dimensional passage has not been built since the last time it collapsed. Have they given up? There's no reason to give up. The Nether Killer clan is already winning. We are meat on the chopping board and are no match for them. Are they waiting for something? What will come will eventually come. The 5 world lords looked worried, but there was nothing they could do. Even the strongest primal chaos Dao Lord was no match for the 9 Hells Kings, let alone the other 4 ordinary world masters. Gu Huang and Lin Feng were indeed very strong, but the Nether Killer clan had 3 strongest world masters. They were the strongest world masters of the Nether Killer clan. Once they broke their limits, their strength would increase to the limit of the strongest world master. Who could challenge them? In fact, the 5 world masters were not that worried if the Nether Killer clan really launched a large-scale attack. The most anxious and restless thing was waiting. They knew that danger was coming and that they did not have the ability to resist, but they had to wait and suffer. However, until the last moment, the 5 world masters would not give up. What if a miracle happened? Previously, when the Nether Killer clan launched a large-scale attack, the dimensional passage had already fallen into despair. Did a miracle not happen? Nothing was certain. The Nether Killer clan was not invincible. There were 2 miracles in the Hongmeng Sea. One was the invincible Emperor Gu Huang, and the other was the unfathomable genius Lin Feng. Naturally, the 5 absolute beings did not know that the 2 Hongmeng-Si experts whom they regarded as miracles had gone deep into the insect world, while the other had gone straight to the underworld dimensional world. "We're getting closer and closer." Lin Feng's heart pounded as he gazed into the distance. Ever since he had become stronger and stronger, he had not felt this way for a long time. His heart was throbbing with a sense of crisis. Even unceasing self-improvement and invincible against all men had not given Lin Feng such a crisis, but now they appeared again. Lin Feng was a top-notch mental cultivator. His attainments in mental cultivation had even surpassed the Hongmeng-Si's pinnacle Hongmeng dimensional body. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was the strongest mental cultivator in the history of the Hongmeng-Si. Is underworld a natural barrier of the dimensional world, or is it some kind of terrifying existence? Could it be that the 9 Hells King isn't the only one in the Netherkill clan? Could it be that there's an ancient existence that's even more powerful than the unstoppable and invincible? Lin Feng's heart trembled. He did not know much about the underworld clan, and even Fan Zhu knew more than him. However, the 5 absolute beings definitely did not know the true secret of the underworld clan. The 2-dimensional worlds were very far apart, and the Hongmeng-Si did not have the qualifications to understand the underworld clan. Lava chains. Lin Feng had already arrived at the intersection of the 9 hells. The boiling lava was extremely active and contained terrifying energy. This was indeed the place where the energy was the most vigorous since Lin Feng had entered the underworld dimensional world. At a glance, there was more than one chain. Under the burning lava, it was as if many black dragons were active. In the middle of the lava and the chains, there was a fog of flames, and he could not see clearly. However, there seemed to be a huge creature tied up by 9 chains. Its aura was exceptionally terrifying, and it hid the underworld clan's greatest secret. To enter or not to enter? Lin Feng's heart pounded even faster, and his blood vessels expanded. His eyes flashed slightly, and the battle blade snow jewel in his hand was already humming. Was there a need to hesitate? There was no need. Since he had already come here, Lin Feng had already made all the preparations. It was impossible for him to retreat at the last step. Regardless of whether the chains and lava array were a dragon's lair, a tiger's den, or some other terrifying existence, Lin Feng wanted to see to the end. This was his purpose in coming to the underworld dimensional world. Ta! Leaping into the air, Lin Feng lightly shook the black chains, making a heavy sound. He deliberately caused the chains to vibrate and attract the attention of the underworld clan inside. Since he was already here, he might as well enter openly. He wanted to see what kind of secret the underworld clan was hiding. At the intersection of the 9 hells, on the floating platform, the golden-black giant cocoon emitted a bright light. The golden-black secret runes surged with energy, as if it had also sensed the changes and abnormalities in the energy outside. He still came. Ziqiang Bushi's expression was calm, but his emotions were indescribably complicated. As the leader of the underworld clan, he wanted to fight with Lin Feng, but he also did not want Lin Feng to come now. However, these were not up to him to decide. Whether Lin Feng came or not was up to Lin Feng himself. When Ziqiang Bushi chose to stay here, he had already thought of all the possibilities. He was not surprised by Lin Feng's arrival. A black chain vibrated gently, and a trace of energy different from underworld power was transmitted. Although the magnitude of the vibration was very weak, it was not only Ziqiang Bushi. Graceful Lady and the other 5 challenger in training also heard it clearly. Their expressions were lofty, and their eyes were sharp. This was a blatant provocation. He did not care about the underworld clan's provocation at all. How could they tolerate this? Chi, chi, chi. 3 separate rays of light shot out. They were the 3 challenger in training. Ziqiang Bushi could not stop them even if he wanted to. They were all crazy admirers of Invincible, and Challenger in training were free and not controlled by the 9 Hells Kings. The remaining 2 Challenger in training were somewhat hesitant. They looked at Zhiqiang Bushi. Although they admired Invincible, they also respected the leader of the underworld clan, Zhiqiang Bushi. "You guys stay here." Zhiqiang Bushi retracted his underworld power, and an ugly golden-black fruit appeared in his hand. He swallowed it instantly, and a surge of underworld power spread out, quickly replenishing his consumed underworld power. Zhiqiang Bushi knew very well who had come. Lin Feng, an expert who could kill Invincible, regardless of whether it was luck or not, was not someone Graceful Lady and the other Challenger in training could deal with. The only person who could possibly defeat him was him and the entire underworld clan. After a long time, black battle armor suddenly appeared on Zhiqiang Bushi's body, and a natal weapon appeared in his hand. We have never really fought. Chapter 3297. On the black chain at the intersection of the 9 hells. Lin Feng was fighting 1 against 3 and was not at a disadvantage at all. The 3 king candidates at the breaking limit level only had the combat strength equivalent to murderous chi at most. To Lin Feng, who could kill Invincible, it was nothing more than that. In the Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake, Hongmeng Viral was controlling. It did not take long for Lin Feng to defeat the 3. 1 dead and 2 injured. Lin Feng did not pursue, because there was still the strongest one behind. Whoosh! Surrounded by boiling lava, his black armor seemed to be on fire. He looked like a demon king who had climbed up from hell. He was completely different from the other kings of the 9 hells. Not only did he have a strong aura, but he was also fully armed. Life armor. The Nether Killers could condense life weapons, so they could also condense life armor. The Infernal Slayers had strong physical defenses, and they had the talent of soul ignition. They did not have much need for natal armors, and they did not have enough time. Just condensing a natal weapon would consume a lot of energy. Condensing a natal armor would affect the strength of the natal weapon. But the self-improvement was different. His life weapon had been condensed to the extreme long ago. Unless his strength transformed to another level, his life weapon could not be improved. If he lived long enough, he would have enough time and energy to condense life armor. How can he endure an invincible 10,000 men were both experts of this era? However, he never stopped improving himself. He was the strongest world lord that had survived from the previous era. He did not have the talent and ability of Invincible. In fact, he spent more than 10 times more time comprehending Shura's state. But so what? He had much more time than Invincible. With enough effort and perseverance, the self-improvement could go further than Invincible on the path of cultivation. In terms of skill and combat experience, self-improvement was not inferior to Invincible of 10,000 men. In terms of maintaining Azura state and soul strength, self-improvement was also stronger than Invincible of 10,000 men. In terms of physical defense and life weapon, self-improvement was still above Invincible of 10,000 men. He was the leader of the Nether Killers, an expert who persevered and worked hard. The self-improvement, boom. The moment he attacked, it was a mighty rain of swords. Black flames surrounded him, and his self-strengthening attacks were as swift as lightning. He did not have the exquisite and peerless swordsmanship, but he had the decisiveness and cleverness of a saber technique, riding the wind and breaking the waves. His attacks were natural and casual. The Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake was completely unable to block it, and the starlight spots were shattered one by one. Break extreme. Constantly striving for self-improvement, he didn't hold back. The moment he faced Lin Feng, he used breaking extremity. He was well aware of his opponent's strength. A cultivator who could kill Invincible was not someone to be trifled with, regardless of whether it was luck or not. Clang! Lin Feng immediately went up to meet Invincible Lin Feng head-on. Even invincible armies Lin Feng dared to face him head-on, let alone invincible army. Although Unceasing Self-Improvement's sword technique was quite exquisite and was not inferior to invincible armies, he did not have invincible army's natural domineering aura. His swordsmanship was more about technique than power. Pung, pung, pung. On the other hand, Lin Feng's power was stronger than Unceasing Self-Improvement's, and it faintly contained invincible army's domineering aura. Lin Feng had been practicing the saber since he was young, and he walked the path of domineering. Therefore, he was able to comprehend a trace of invincible army's domineering aura and reach the origin level. After the life-and-death battle with invincible army, Lin Feng's comprehension of the domineering aura deepened. Invincible Army's final confrontation with Invincible Army's conviction was even more unforgettable. This was the true essence of the domineering aura, the pride in one's heart. It was not an external domineering aura, nor was it the domineering aura of the saber technique. It was a domineering aura that came from the deepest part of one's heart, from the bones. This saber technique, Unceasing Self-Improvement, was also very surprised. It was as if he had returned to the time when he sparred with Invincible Army when he was young. He was still so immature, but he already had a deep understanding of the domineering aura. He moved forward bravely with firm conviction. Other than Invincible Army and Unceasing Self-Improvement, he had never seen such a domineering aura from other netherkill experts. But now, he actually saw it from a Hongmengsi cultivator. It's no wonder that Invincible Army admires him. Unceasing Self-Improvement was not afraid of Invincible Army. He had sparred with Invincible Army many times, and it had always ended in a draw. Invincible Army's aura was stronger, and Unceasing Self-Improvement's swordsmanship was deeper. They both had their own strength. They walked different paths when it came to surpassing the origin grade. His energy is very troublesome. After a few exchanges, Unceasing Self-Improvement realized that Lin Feng was special. Although Lin Feng was still immature in terms of realm and techniques, and was inferior to his swordsmanship in every aspect, Lin Feng's energy completely suppressed his netherworld energy. This was very frightening. He's even stronger than when he was in the dimensional channel. Is Invincible Army suppressed in this way too? The rain of swords was subtle, and Lin Feng could not block Unceasing Self-Improvement's swordsmanship at all. However, Lin Feng's saber's explosive power forced Unceasing Self-Improvement back repeatedly. Without Invincible Army's aura, Unceasing Self-Improvement's swordsmanship could not be used effectively against Lin Feng. Now, Unceasing Self-Improvement somewhat understood. Why did Invincible Army lose back then? Under the extreme break state, his strength was not much different from Invincible Army's. Although Invincible Army was slightly stronger than him, it was limited. If this continued, he would not be Lin Feng's opponent and would be injured very quickly. Unceasing Self-Improvement had overestimated Lin Feng. At that time, Lin Feng's understanding of tyrannical intent had not reached this level, and he was not as strong as he was now. His attacks against Invincible Army were mainly to exhaust and weaken him. However, he did not use the same method against Unceasing Self-Improvement. From how Unceasing Self-Improvement easily broke through the Blue Frost Immortal Dust Lake and how exquisite his swordsmanship was, Lin Feng knew what Unceasing Self-Improvement was good at. Exhaustion was useless against Unceasing Self-Improvement. An expert who had reached this level of skill and experience was balanced in all aspects and had no weaknesses. On the contrary, Unceasing Self-Improvement was not outstanding in frontal attacks due to too much immersion in skill. It did not give Lin Feng as much pressure as Invincible Army. In addition, Lin Feng's swordsmanship had improved over the past few eras, so Lin Feng chose to fight in a different way than when he fought against Invincible Army. The effect was obvious. Mental cultivators used their strengths to take advantage of the enemy's weaknesses. It should be soon. Lin Feng was also holding back and preparing. If he guessed correctly, unceasing self-improvement would definitely use a terrifying secret technique like Invincible Army, surpassing the 6 levels of soul ignition. Boom! Battle Blade's Snow Jewel once again forced unceasing self-improvement back. Hongmeng Virile corroded, and Ning Qiong's mythical beast artifact spirit appeared in the void. The power of the strongest Hongmeng origin item was not any weaker than unceasing self-improvement's life weapon. Whoosh! Whoosh! Golden black light shone on unceasing self-improvement's body like mysterious patterns. His muscles and bones bulged and changed instantly. Strands of underworld energy turned into steam and burned away. Unceasing self-improvement's aura instantly increased. It's coming. Lin Feng's heart trembled. Chapter 3298. Spirit of Will Super Source. The moment he activated Shura's state, Lin Feng used the Spirit Shock technique. Just like before, he used 3 Spirit Shocks to kill Invincible. This time, the power of Lin Feng's Spirit Shock was several times stronger than when he fought Invincible. The energy from the Spirit of Will ring surged, causing Lin Feng's Spirit Shock to be like a cannonball shooting into the frantically burning Spirit of Will ring. The 2 different spirit powers instantly collided, shaking the heavens and earth. Pooh! The powerful recoil instantly injured Lin Feng. Although the Spirit Shock technique surpassed the source grade, the strength of the Spirit of Will ring was even stronger than Invincible. In the next moment, Lin Feng quickly retreated. Amidst the furious roar of the self-improvement cultivator, his speed soared. Heart-defying secret technique. The extraordinary Hongmeng dimensional body displayed Lin Feng's astonishing speed, instantly reaching the limit of the underworld dimension. Behind him, the Spirit of Will ring, who had fully activated Shura's state, furiously chased after him. However, he was unable to break through the speed limit of the underworld dimension. In order to exceed the speed limit of the underworld dimension, one would either have terrifying strength like Virile, ignoring the rules of the dimension, or have various unique abilities or attainments in space and time. With his attainments in space, he could easily catch up to Lin Feng by sealing the space or increasing his speed. However, the Spirit of Will ring was unable to do so. In Shura's state, his strength was strong enough to exceed the rules of the underworld dimension. However, to break through the space of the dimension, he would have to endure the corrosion of Virile, which would be extremely stressful. Furthermore, the stability of a dimension was extremely important. Currently, the Emperor's transformation at the intersection of the 9 hells required extreme stability. If any mishap occurred in the dimension and caused the transformation to fail, the Spirit of Will ring, as the leader of the underworld clan, would not be able to escape the blame. Chase. Even if Shura's state was stopped, it would cause a certain amount of exhaustion to the soul, which would require a long time to recover. This was different from the soul-burning 6 extremes. Even breaking extremes was within the Netherkill's soul's tolerance. Only the legendary Shura Nether God of the Netherkill clan could easily activate the super-powerful Shura state by fully activating the Shura bloodline in his body. Even though he had cultivated for a long time, and his soul had far surpassed invincible 10,000 men in terms of maintaining Shura's state, he was still only a king of the 9 hells, and not the god of the underworld like Shura. The Shura bloodline in his body was not enough. It would be better to keep fighting despite repeated defeats, and it would be better to be invincible against 10,000 men. Cunning, unceasing self-improvement gritted his teeth, and his eyes were bloodshot. Unlike Invincible's Shura state, unceasing self-improvement remained absolutely clear-headed under Shura's state. It was no different from Broken Extremity. After chasing Lin Feng for a while, from beginning to end he did not see Lin Feng turn around to face him head-on. The only thing he could do was to stop and return to the junction of the 9 hells. He could not continue the chase with Lin Feng. Lin Feng would not consume too much energy, but he was consuming his soul. Even though unceasing self-improvement could now control his cultivation state as he wished, the damage to his soul was real. Whoosh, sure state was removed, and the golden black light disappeared, but unceasing self-improvement's expression was slightly ugly. Even if it was only for a short moment in Shura's state, the consumption of his soul would take nearly half an era to recover. This is troublesome. Unceasing self-improvement's eyes were full of fear as he looked in the direction Lin Feng had disappeared and pursed his lips tightly. He was not afraid of a battle maniac like Invincible 10,000 Men, but he was afraid of an expert like Lin Feng who knew how to seek fortune and avoid disaster. As expected, he did not catch up. Lin Feng sped for a while and then stopped. He spread out his will and quickly sensed unceasing self-improvement's existence. Unceasing self-improvement also seemed to sense that he was being probed and stopped. But unceasing self-improvement did not chase after him. After a short pause, he returned to the area where they had first fought. His reaction was not out of Lin Feng's expectations. Although Lin Feng had never fought with unceasing self-improvement ever since he started fighting with the Nether Killer clan, he had been constantly competing with unceasing self-improvement. Lin Feng had some understanding of the leader of the Nether Killer clan. He was not like the other members of the Nether Killer clan who liked to fight. Instead, he was relatively calm and had the distinction of being a general. Such an expert would be very clear about every step of the plan, what he should do, and what would benefit the Nether Killer clan. He did not chase after him because he could not. Everyone had reached the limit of the Nether Killer clan's dimensional world and naturally could not catch up. If he wanted to break the rules of the world and endure virile, Lin Feng was not afraid. The 6 extremes of soul ignition should only be an application of soul power. But just now it was equivalent to an explosion of the soul. Invincible 10,000 is unable to withstand an explosion of the soul. Unceasing self-improvement and Invincible 10,000 are experts of the same level. Although unceasing self-improvement's combat techniques are better, the essence of the secret technique will not change. It is still an explosion of the soul and will cause damage to the soul. Lin Feng deduced this from the battle with Invincible 10,000. Although Soul Shock was an attack, it was also the most direct contact with the opponent's soul. Lin Feng could clearly feel the changes in his opponent's soul. The previous 3 soul shocks that killed Invincible 10,000 were not only because of the Heart of Will Ring and the Soul Shock secret technique, but also because of the huge negative effects of Invincible 10,000's soul explosion. If they were to fight head-on, Lin Feng's chances of winning against an opponent with an explosion of the soul were close to 0. Lin Feng was very clear about this point. He was not that strong now. If he were to fight Invincible head-on, Lin Feng would definitely not be his opponent. Unceasing self-improvement might be stronger than Invincible 10,000. Lin Feng would not take the risk. He already knew this from the first soul shock. Unceasing self-improvement's soul was several times stronger than Invincible 10,000. What did this mean? Even if it was soul explosion, unceasing self-improvement could last longer than Invincible 10,000. At the very least, it was not something that could be resolved with 3 soul shocks. And Lin Feng's current limit was 3 soul shocks. There was no need for that. Using unceasing self-improvement's soul explosion would be enough as long as he dodged. Moreover, Lin Feng was already injured from the first soul shock. This was enough to show how powerful unceasing self-improvement's soul was. Fortunately, it's only a small injury. Most of it consumed the energy of the Heart of Will Ring. This injury was not a big deal. Lin Feng now had the Hongmeng dimensional body. Whether it was the quality of his energy or his recovery ability, they were both quite strong. As long as he had enough energy to nurture them, he would be able to recover quickly. I wonder how long it will take for him to recover after using unceasing self-improvement's soul explosion? If it takes longer than me, then he will have a headache. Lin Feng smiled. He was not Invincible 10,000 and had to defeat his opponent head-on. If there was a simpler way, a shortcut, Lin Feng would not mind doing so. Chapter 3299. At the border of the Nine Hells. The eyes of the graceful woman and the 4 reserve king-level experts lit up, and they were full of expectation. However, Zi Chongbushi shook his head. In an instant, the hearts of the 5 Nether Kill clan experts were greatly shaken. They sucked in a breath of cold air. In particular, the graceful woman stared intently at Zi Chongbushi with an extremely ugly expression. You can't kill him even in Shura's state? As a king of the Nine Hells, Graceful Beauty knew Shura's state and knew that Graceful Beauty could use it. He ran away. Graceful Beauty told the truth with fear in her eyes. If I'm not wrong, that's how Invincible 10,000 died. Invincible 10,000 died like that? The 4 kings of the Yellow Springs prison didn't know what was going on. Despicable! Graceful Beauty's almond-shaped eyes were full of anger. The Nether Killers disdained to do that. When they fought, it was always the brave who won. They didn't rely on tricks to win. Even if they weren't strong enough, they would still fight to the end. For the Nether Killers, this was their belief. There's nothing despicable about it. There's only the winner on the battlefield. Graceful Beauty's tone was calm. He didn't think there was anything wrong with what he did. It would be stupid to fight with the enemy head-on even if he wasn't strong enough. As he grew older, he constantly strived to improve himself. He had long seen through many things. He could only blame himself for not being strong enough. Shura's blood wasn't pure in his body. Otherwise, he could maintain Shura's state and wouldn't care about such details. He'll come again? Graceful Beauty bit her lip. He'll definitely come. Graceful Beauty breathed a sigh of relief, recovering the nether force he had used. For a moment, he didn't know how to deal with Lin Feng. If this stalemate continued, he would exhaust his soul energy and follow in Invincible 10,000's footstep. His gaze fell on the golden-black giant cocoon. Graceful Beauty looked worried. The problem now was that he had to stay here. Once he left and Lin Feng entered, the Emperor's transformation would be in vain. If he deliberately led Lin Feng away, self-improvement shook his head. From what he knew, Lin Feng would not be so easily lured away. Lin Feng would definitely come here to take a look. At that time, all the secrets would be exposed. He couldn't leave, but he couldn't stay either. Even with his rich experience in self-improvement, he still felt a headache coming on. Ziqiang Bushi's guess was right. Lin Feng didn't make him wait for long. After his soul had completely recovered, he once again stepped onto the black chains and headed straight for the border of the Nine Hells. Kill and strive for self-improvement? Lin Feng was still not strong enough. Unless he was like Invincible, insisting on a winner and a loser, Lin Feng wouldn't be able to catch up to him if he kept on running. Once again, the clash was no different from the first. After endless self-improvement was injured, he was forced to activate Shura's state once more. Lin Feng did the same and used Soul Shock once more. Not only did he delay endless self-improvement, but he also increased the consumption of his soul. With a double blow, Lin Feng didn't linger and quickly retreated. Endless self-improvement couldn't do anything. The underworld Sha experts could only grit their teeth and grumble, but there was nothing they could do. Encircle and suppress Lin Feng? With their strength, it was simply courting death. The third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, every once in a while, Lin Feng would come, swearing not to give up until he achieved his goal. Endless self-improvement had tried all kinds of methods, such as pretending to be injured to lure the snake out of its hole, luring the tiger away from its mountain, gathering other reserve kings to delay Lin Feng, and so on. Without exception, all of them failed. Lin Feng was sure that there was a secret at the border of the Nine Hells and wouldn't give up. On the contrary, endless self-improvement had been continuously exhausted by Lin Feng. His soul was not light, and he had less than 50% left. It would take him dozens of eras to recover. If he continued to fight, not only would he not be able to protect the Emperor's secret, but he would also die in Lin Feng's hands. Endless self-improvement could clearly feel that Lin Feng was exerting more and more pressure on him with every battle. This cultivator from the Hongmeng Sea was even more talented than invincible. Regardless of whether it was the realm of his saber techniques, his skills, or even the use of his treasures, they were all at the peak. It was getting harder and harder to resist. Endless self-improvement under the state of breaking limit was originally inferior to invincible. Now, he was gradually being suppressed by Lin Feng. The exhaustion and injury of the soul would also affect the effect of breaking limit. Lin Feng's advantage was getting bigger and bigger. Endless self-improvement could feel it, and Lin Feng himself knew it. The scale was tilting bit by bit. At this time, bad news was coming one after another. Even the monster Viral is approaching. Endless self-improvement knew the movements of the monster Viral. It had gone on a killing spree in the Netherkill dimension world, killing countless experts of the Netherkill clan as if it had gone mad. But endless self-improvement could not do anything. He could not do anything to Lin Feng, nor could he do anything to the monster Viral. Now, for the first time, he felt that he could not do anything alone. As strong as the Netherkill clan, a dignified combat clan, they could not even resist being stepped on in the face and throat. How sad was that? Endless self-improvement had also thought of luring the monster Viral here, and let it fight with Lin Feng. But thinking about it carefully, Viral was definitely stronger than Lin Feng. It was even stronger than him in Shura's state. Moreover, Viral's sense of smell was very sharp. It would definitely discover the Emperor's existence. When that happened, it would be a big problem. Unlike Lin Feng, who might not be able to break through the giant chrysalis even if he could get past him. Viral's strength was too terrifying and unfathomable. Endless self-improvement did not dare to take this risk. He was not afraid of those with brains. He was afraid of those without brains but with terrifying strength. Therefore, endless self-improvement had long since given up on this idea. He even tried to lure Viral to other places, but he failed. Viral did not care about anything at all. It killed wherever it went. It was born with a special ability to sense things. After slaughtering billions of Netherkill clan members, Viral was slowly approaching the border of the Nine Hells. Emperor, it's too difficult for me. Endless self-improvement's right hand touched the giant golden-black chrysalis. Strands of netherworld power were released, and the mysterious golden-black patterns shone. Graceful Beauty and the other trainee kings also felt the same. They were exhausted. One Lin Feng and the rest were already difficult enough. Now, there was another Viral. Who could stop it? There was still a small part of the engravings on the giant golden-black chrysalis. Endless self-improvement also knew that it would take at least dozens of eras for the Emperor to truly complete the transformation. But neither he nor the Netherkill clan could last that long. If this continued, the result would be even worse. The pressure that Lin Feng and the dimensional monsters brought to him had already caused him to be unable to continue. He continued to strive for self-improvement as he transmitted his thoughts through the underworld energy into the giant golden-black cocoon. He knew that the Emperor could sense his thoughts, and the Emperor also knew what to do. Because he was the hope and strength of the Netherkill clan. He was the strongest existence of the Netherkill clan in this era, an invincible existence. Defeated repeatedly, but still fighting. Everything was left to the Emperor to decide. Chapter 3300. Lin Feng was slightly surprised when he stepped onto the black chain once more. The scalding hot lava assaulted him. It was surprisingly quiet. This time, he did not feel the aura of unceasing self-improvement. In the past, whenever he stepped on the black chain, the unceasing self-improvement would quickly appear to stop him and fight until his soul finally exploded and he retreated. It felt like it was guarding something. The deeper and more concealed the ceaseless striving for self-improvement was, the more Lin Feng wanted to find out about it. Because he was clearly aware that it was probably the secret of the Netherkiller clan, and it was very likely that it was the reason they were attacking the primordial ocean. As long as he destroyed it, everything would be over. Has he given up? It doesn't seem like the style of the unceasing self-improvement. Lin Feng became more cautious. As the leader of the Netherkill clan, the word give up was not in the dictionary of the unceasing self-improvement. There must be a reason why he did not appear. Too much soul loss? More than half of my soul is gone, but I'm still far from being exhausted. Every time Lin Feng fought with the unceasing self-improvement, he would use a soul shock. Not only did it accelerate the consumption of the unceasing self-improvement's soul and slow its recovery, but it was also the first time he came into contact with the unceasing self-improvement's soul. He knew the state of the unceasing self-improvement like the back of his hand. Has he set up a trap for me? I should have set it up long ago. During this period of time, the unceasing self-improvement has exhausted all kinds of method. If I still have a trump card, I should have used it long ago instead of waiting until my soul is more than half exhausted. Stepping on the black chain, Lin Feng moved forward slowly. After thinking about it, the unceasing self-improvement did not seem to be able to play any trick. It was more likely that there was nothing he could do, or was it an empty fort strategy? Lin Feng would not back down. During this period of time, the competition with the unceasing self-improvement had increased his strength again. He had some subtle understanding of the white-clothed swordsman's blade in his mind. This blade technique was not only beyond the origin level, it was far beyond it. Lin Feng yearned for the vastness of the dimensional space. First, there was the monster virile that could easily tear through the dimensional wall. Then, there was the white-clothed swordsman that killed an expert more terrifying than invincible with one blade. In this dimensional space, there were endless transcendent existences. What he had seen was just the tip of the iceberg. What is the true dimensional space like? Lin Feng stepped on the black chain. Although he knew that he might have entered a tiger's den, he didn't panic in the slightest. The higher one's outlook, the more composed they would be. Oh, what a powerful aura! As the lava mist was pushed aside, the true appearance of the Nine Hells border was gradually revealed. Lin Feng penetrated it with his will and saw everything clearly. It was a golden-black giant pupa surrounded by complicated golden-black runes, exuding powerful energy. It's very similar to when invincible 10,000 men and unceasing self-improvement's soul erupted. Beside the golden-black giant cocoon, Lin Feng saw self-improvement Bushi and the other reserve kings. In the blink of an eye, the manifested will was attacked. The attack came from the manifested will, and the enormous energy aura emitted by the golden-black giant cocoon was like a powerful shield. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the manifested will in an instant. A show of strength. Lin Feng's eyes widened slightly. Although it was just a glimpse, the golden-black giant cocoon left a deep impression on Lin Feng. From the protection of self-improvement Bushi and the other reserve kings, it was obvious how important it was. Treasure? Inheritance? Or some kind of strange life form? Soon he would know. Lin Feng's arrival was no surprise to self-improvement Bushi. Graceful Beauty and the other reserve kings were also waiting for him. What should come would come, and what should be faced would be faced. However, at some point in time, the Hongmengsi had the initiative and the advantage, while the Netherkill clan had become the passive ones. This is it. Lin Feng was hovering in the sky. The boiling hot lava was burning the black chains, making clanking noises. The 9 black chains seemed to be binding a huge monster, deeply rooted in a huge floating platform. The border of the 9 hells. At the center of the floating platform was a golden-black giant cocoon. Lin Feng saw it for the first time. The golden runes were dazzling, and the enormous energy overflowed. It was exactly the same. No, it was even stronger. Looking at the golden-black giant cocoon, Lin Feng seemed to see invincible Bushi and self-improvement Bushi's soul. They belonged to the same level of power and state, but the golden-black giant cocoon was undoubtedly much stronger. It was faintly a step higher. What was hidden inside the golden black giant cocoon? Lin Feng didn't know. Even at such a close distance, he couldn't detect it. The golden black giant cocoon's energy was above his. The probing of his will was like being swallowed by a bottomless black hole. Not attacking? Lin Feng was very close to the golden black giant cocoon, and even closer to self-improvement Bushi and the reserve kings. However, they only guarded the golden black giant cocoon like a painting. They didn't leave the cocoon at all, afraid that Lin Feng would destroy it. Chi! A white light shot out. It was Lin Feng's spirit of Gai Wei. It went straight for the golden black giant cocoon. Self-improvement Bushi's figure appeared instantly. The broken extreme state's sword rain fell again. Even though Lin Feng's control of Gai Wei's spirit was exquisite, self-improvement Bushi's control over the sword rain was omnidirectional. Pung! Clang! Pung! The white light pagoda tried to attack from all directions, but there was no chance. Lin Feng then withdrew Gai Wei's spirit. It was possible to consume ordinary 9 Hells Kings, but against self-improvement Bushi, Lin Feng knew very well that he could almost maintain broken extreme state forever. Self-improvement Bushi had true power. He might not have such outstanding spatial control, and he didn't have the instantaneous explosive power of Invincible 10,000, but his character was calm and steady. His tenacity and endurance were the strongest, and also the most difficult to deal with. Even if his soul had been consumed by more than half. It seems to be waiting for me to go over? Lin Feng could also see that he wasn't good at long-range attack. The only Gai Wei's spirit couldn't do anything to self-improvement Bushi. Soul attacks and self-improvement Bushi were also useless. Clearly, there was only one way to attack. Very accurate. Lin Feng knew that this was part of self-improvement Bushi's plan, but he had to do it. Unless, he gave up the exploration of this floating platform and the golden black giant cocoon. Since he was here, he couldn't just miss it. Let me see what kind of dragon's pool and tiger's den this is. Lin Feng's battle blade, Snow Jewel, shone brightly. The weapon spirit appeared, and the Hongmeng virile appeared. With enough confidence in himself, Lin Feng instantly shot into the floating platform like a light arrow. Pung! Self-improvement Bushi activated Shura's state in an instant. On the floating platform, the golden black giant cocoon trembled slightly. Streaks of golden light shone through the secret engravings, dancing like dragons. From the bottom of the golden black giant cocoon, it turned into thousands of streaks of golden light that quickly spread throughout the floating platform.